Good morning, everyone. Good morning. This is the Board of Supervisors meeting, regular meeting, Tuesday, August 18th. We will go ahead and begin. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. All right, at this time, it'll be the oral communications. Anybody has the right to come up to the microphone to talk for 3 minutes about anything that is not on the agenda. You can come on up, get in line. As you do that, I would like to remind everyone to silence their cell phones. We like to keep it respectful, both from the speakers and the board, as we interact together. So, with that being said, good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. Good morning, supervisors and staff. My name is Diane Severud, and I'm the community coordinator with the Murphy Senior Center. We are hosting a longevity and lifestyle conference at Ironstone Vineyard in Murphy's on October 15th from 9 to 3. Registration begins at 8 a.m. The Longevity and Lifestyle Conference will feature local and national experts presenting current brain research and aging trends. The conference has been planned for both the general public and those working in health and age-related professions. The program agenda includes Q Lee from the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, Claire Day of the Alzheimer's Association, Dr. Beatrice Marone from UC Davis, and keynote speaker Dr. Selena Bartlett, an internationally recognized neuroscientist and thought leader in the brain health. Traveling from Queensland, Australia, Dr. Bartlett is excited to spread the word that brain health is everyone's business, discover how healthy habits and stronger connections can help us live longer and build truly thriving lives. Speaker bios and lecture topics can be found at the murphycenter.com. The event will be held at Ironstone. The cost is $15 per person. Breakfast and lunch will be provided. The event is sponsored by the Alzheimer's Association, the Mark Twain Healthcare District, Adventist Health Sonora, and Adventist Health Home Care, and Dignity Health Mark Twain Medical Center. In its 17th year, the Murphy Senior Center provides exercise and social activities for older adults on the Highway 4 corridor in Calaveras County. As a nonprofit, the Murphy Senior Center operates the Murphy's Food Pantry and the Murphy's Thrift Store. The Murphy Senior Center is located at 65 Mitchler Avenue and is open Monday through Friday, 9 to 3. You can register now at murphycenter.com/conference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, supervisors. My name is Emily Pardee. I am speaking today as a volunteer for Michael Masuda, who is running for United States Congress in California's 5th District, which includes Tuolumne County. Our voices are important, which is why the Masuda for Congress campaign invites you to meet Michael and join the conversation at our town hall tomorrow, Wednesday, August 19th, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Willow Springs Clubhouse in Soulsbyville. This event is open to the public. We invite you to come, bring your ideas and your questions, join the conversation, and enjoy light refreshments. Across the district, we are dealing with issues ranging from wildfires and fire insurance, rising healthcare costs, struggling small businesses, and households facing steeply rising costs. Michael is an engineer, not a politician. He is a problem solver focused on bringing people together to tackle the challenges we all have in common. Michael grew up in Amador County. He spent nearly a decade working in defense research, developing new technologies to keep our troops safe from drones and missiles. Michael then became a foreign affairs officer at the State Department, where he used his engineering background to inform our leaders on science, technology, and foreign policy issues. Michael is running for Congress because he has 2 small children, a 4-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter. Michael believes that local problems require local solutions led by local leaders. He believes we need a partner in Congress who will bring our voices to Washington and bring our taxpayer dollars home to help address our local challenges. Again, the Masuda for Congress campaign is hosting a town hall tomorrow from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Willow Springs Clubhouse in Soulsbyville. This event is open to the public. Come, enjoy light refreshments, and bring your questions and ideas to Michael Masuda's town hall. You can learn more about Michael, his positions, and upcoming events at the campaign website, votemasuda.com. Thank you for your time, and we hope to see you tomorrow at the Willow Springs Clubhouse in Soulsbyville.
Good morning, supervisors and everyone. Patricia Ray. The situation I've had going on 6 years now with the toxic dump abutting my property does present a threat to our groundwater, even though some county officials have repeated to my neighbors and me that it isn't. Now there's the issue of Calaveras County supervisors voting unanimously to hold off data center development till more studies are made, which seems sensible and sensitive to their constituents. Apparently you, our supervisors, made no decision but to make a few noises about using the polluted land and water at the old Jamestown mine for that development. But so far, I've read that data centers need huge quantities of clean drinking water and great amounts of power use, plus bringing noise and nighttime glare issues. I would think it wise to get in touch with other areas and people who do already have these data center developments and see if they really like them, and if not, why not? May seem like I'm out on a tangent today, but actually not. Here again, similar to my dump issue I've kept banging away on, is another issue of county government taking a cavalier attitude towards groundwater, and I'm not aware that our county has all that much water to squander. Both developments have to do with your constituents' needs that mustn't be just put aside. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. My name is Vanessa Barberis, and I'm here this morning representing WM. I also have with me Trevor Evans, who's our district manager for Cal Sierra. Last week, our team sent out notices to about 200 residents regarding proposed community service stops in areas where we currently provide service on private roads. Since the notice went out, we received feedback and heard concerns from some of the impacted residents, and we take those concerns seriously. We've asked Debbie Reagan, your Assistant Public Works Director, to coordinate a meeting with the County Solid Waste Division so that we can review those concerns together, look at the available service options, and determine the appropriate path forward. If any members of the board would like to join that discussion, we would invite you to reach out to Debbie, and she'll be able to share that meeting detail with you once we schedule it. In the meantime, our customer service and operations team are available to speak directly with any resident who received a notice and has questions or concerns. We want residents and the board to know that we are listening and that we are committed to working directly with the impacted residents and the county to address individual concerns or circumstances. Our goal is to make sure that residents have an appropriate service option and that concerns are addressed as we work through this transition. So thank you for your time this morning.
So to be clear, waste management.
Yeah.
Yeah.
WM.
I know.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying, but for the people out there that may not know it, the acronym stood for. I just want to make sure that we recognize that.
Yes, and locally known as Cal Sierra.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Good morning, supervisors. My name is Sean Betzendorfer. I own a licensed landscaping and construction company right here in Tuolumne County. I'm speaking this morning about the growing number of unlicensed contractors operating openly in our community. California law is clear. Anyone performing construction, remodeling, or similar work that exceeds the legal threshold in labor and materials must hold a valid contractor's license. Operating without one is a misdemeanor. It carries real penalties, fines, jail time, and the inability to legally collect payment. Homeowners who hire unlicensed operators can also face serious liability if someone gets hurt on the job, and they have little recourse if the work is incomplete or defective. Yet in Tuolumne County, unlicensed operators continue to bid jobs, advertise, and work. Licensed contractors who invest in insurance bonds, workman's compensation, and proper permits are competing against people who ignore these requirements. This is not a level playing field. It undercuts legitimate local businesses, puts residents at risk, and erodes public confidence that the rules apply equally. The problem is not the absence of laws. The problem is enforcement. Our Community Development Department and Code Compliance Division have faced well-documented staffing shortages and backlogs. Recent reports have noted that limited resources force the county to focus mainly on immediate health and safety issues while other violations pile up. While complaints about unpermitted or unlicensed work do not receive timely follow-up, the message to operators is simple. The risk of being stopped is low. This is not about punishing people who want to work. It's about protecting the public and supporting the businesses that play by the rules. Stronger coordination with the Contractor State License Board, clear prioritization of active job site complaints, and adequate staffing for code compliance would make a measurable difference. I urge the board to treat consistent enforcement of contractor licensing and permitting requirements as a priority. Our residents deserve protection. Licensed local businesses deserve a fair chance. And the rules already on the books deserve to be enforced. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. August 25th is our National Kiss and Makeup Day. So I would like to request once again that the county, especially to you, Chair Griefer, reach out to the city of Sonora and see if we can kiss and make up. Because last night was a city council meeting, and once again, the mayor took not one, not two, but at least 3 swipes at the county that I thought was grossly inappropriate, immature, and unprofessional. And then, of course, the vice mayor had to pipe up. So maybe you would like to accompany him, Supervisor Holland, and see if you can kiss and make up. And I want to thank, I believe the Sheriff's Department for cleaning up the mess that the old courthouse had turned into, because it was pretty disgusting, and it looks really nice today. And then county buildings, you are prevented from smoking within 20 feet of the doorway. And you have some people in this building who smoke, but they go around the corner, and I've never once seen them leave a butt on the ground, which I appreciate. But you have a vapor who stands right outside the front door, and I am not interested in getting vape smoke in my face when I want to enter a building. So if you could please inform your employees to not vape or smoke right outside the doors. Lieutenant Matty Schock from CHP is here, and I want to give him a big salute because he told me he arrested someone on Washington Street for littering. I am so impressed with that. I would like to see some littering enforcement. Littering comes with a mandatory fine for your first offense of $250 and a mandatory 8 hours of community service in which you are to spend it cleaning up. So I would like to see more of that, and Lieutenant Matty Schock, you are like my favorite. Thank you.
All right, any other public comment? Ms. Dowd, I was a little concerned when you said to you, Steve, about kissing and makeup. I wasn't sure where we were going with this, so I appreciate the comment there. Any comments online? Any hand raised?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay. All right, so then the next item will be, we don't have any closed sessions, so there's no closed session comments. That's great. Next will be staff reports. Any staff reports? I think we got these already.
Good morning. Michelle Giacchetta, Public Health Director. I'd like to share with the board and the public some important information. As a reminder, Tuolumne County is part of the County Medical Services Program, or CMSP, a program that can help with medical costs for uninsured, low-income, indigent adults that are not otherwise eligible for other publicly funded healthcare programs. The program policy and guidelines are established by the CMSP Governing Board. As counties and programs face impending changes with Medi-Cal eligibility and budget concerns, CMSP will be holding public hearings on September 18th and October 5th in Sacramento and on Zoom to consider proposed program changes that will result in the suspension of the Governing Board's Connect to Care program, modification and elimination of eligibility for CMSP services for certain individuals, and elimination or reduction of certain healthcare benefits currently provided by CMSP. Public hearing information and a description of the proposed changes can be found on the CMSP Governing Board's website at www.cmspcounties.org, and scroll to the bottom of the page and it has the hearing information. And additionally, the public hearing notice will appear in local newspapers serving those 35 CMSP counties, including Tuolumne. Just wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Board. My name's Debbie Reagan. I'm the Assistant Director of Public Works. Just a brief announcement regarding an upcoming event that the Solid Waste Division is hosting this Saturday up in Big Oak Flat. It's one of our household hazardous waste collection events. We do this every August. So this Saturday, you enter on Catholic Cemetery Road, follow the signs. It will run 9 to 1. This is a great opportunity to clean out your garage for those chemicals that you don't use anymore. Unlike our regular appointments or our regular events where we typically require appointments, no appointment is needed for this event. I do ask that items come in no larger than a 5-gallon container, maximum of 15 gallons total. If you have any questions, please feel free to call our main line at 209-533-5588. Again, that's 533-5588 this Saturday, 9 to 1, up in Big Oak Flat. Thank you, Board.
Thank you.
Board, Liz Peterson, Deputy County Administrator. Just wanted to give you all and the public an update. I have been in, I think, 5 meetings in the last month regarding insurance, homeowners insurance, fire insurance. It's been, frankly, really exciting. All kinds of folks from the Department of Insurance, Supervisor Brandon and I were on a call just last week, but all kinds of, there's a nonprofit Insurance for Good. All kinds of folks are really interested in what we're doing here, and particularly really interested in using Tuolumne County as a model for how, I wrote it down from my first meeting, how we can make California insurable. So that's really the big push. As you all know, the issues that we have, I have some great data that one of the groups put together, a map that shows like different sections in Tuolumne County and how they're broken out by who's insured and by whom, as well as the number of burned structures in that area, because as we know, that's, I think, one of the big issues that we have is that we are, of course, the highest per capita with the FAIR Plan. And yet we have quite a low number of burned structures compared to other counties in the state. That, among many other things, of course, all of the fuel reduction work that we've done. So there's a lot of interest in Tuolumne County. Just wanted to let you all and the public know that, that there's some pretty significant efforts underway, some modeling, some really strong conversations actually with insurance companies about how we can really get a clearer picture on what they are seeing as the true risks and then how we can help mitigate that. We're talking, pooling, some sort of pooling of funding so that we can stop relying on grants and really utilize a regular 5 to 15 year maintenance cycle so that we're treating the fuels around consistently. Anyways, there's going to be potentially a convening of some folks here in October, so I'll keep you updated on all those details, of course. But just wanted to make you and the public aware that there's some pretty significant conversations. It's really exciting. Of course, my answer is always yes. Come here, yes. We will figure it out. We'll show you what we're doing. Anything you need from us, the answer is yes. But so just wanted you to be aware of that, and yeah, happy. I'll keep you updated as things move along.
Thank you. Any other staff reports? Always that one guy waits to the end. There's a walk-up music just for you. Always one. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Board. Thank you for the time. Just wanted to give a quick update on Office of Emergency Services. I know the last time I spoke at a board meeting, we were talking about filling the vacancies that we currently had and the ones that we had downgraded from assistant director to OES coordinator. We did make those selections, and they three personnel are currently working their way through a full background. One of them is our OES coordinator, Dave Salzar, who is doing a fantastic job. Obviously, he was forged by fire with the Dove Fire incident, and he has proven to be a fantastic asset, doing very, very well. I will say a note of clarity is that throughout Dove Fire, one of the things that we did see as a point of development was that when we made the declaration, there was some different language components in the actual resolution that didn't necessarily match. The state kind of caught on to that, so we had to work through those kinks. What it did was it kind of started a clock a little bit quicker than we did, with more constraints than we wanted. It gave us 72 hours to start getting the initial costs associated with Dove Fire put in there. But again, I highlight that because Dave did a really good job coordinating with the state, got that extended to where we could have more time. And I just want to extend my sincerest gratitude to all the department heads from HHSA, County Roads, Public Works. Everybody came together and was able to compile that data so we could submit to the state, and we met the timeline. So all of those costs have been submitted to the state. Cal OES has been fantastic to work with, very helpful in our endeavors as we navigate through recovery with Dove Fire. We will have a press release that comes out that talks more specifically about how we can help community members that did suffer losses and damages. It'll be more in detail coming out. We'll share it on our main platform as well if that hasn't already gone out. Hired 2 analysts for OES. I didn't cover that. So we have 2 OES analysts that are currently also working their way through the background process, which is extremely helpful for us because then they can have unfettered access to emergency operation centers and our dispatch center to be able to work directly with other partner agencies when we do have to activate. That's extremely important for us. So we anticipate within the next few weeks that they'll be fully completed and fully operational. I haven't said this in the public yet, but the vision is to allocate those analysts to assist in any and all functions that OES had in the past, whether that's participating in supporting committees and also retrieving grants, not only just for fire, but safety and working with utility companies to be better partners in our shared vision of emergency services for the county. So very proud of that team. I have high hopes for the analysts that are coming in, but just wanted to give a real quick update on that. I know I've talked to the fire chief about our vision for seeking grants and funding and allocating one of those analysts specifically to working with fire, which I think is something that's long overdue and really needed. Quick update on the operational tempo. Total calls for last month, July. I know I talked about summer hitting early, but these numbers are a bit higher than what I've seen in the past. 14,680 total calls coming into the comm center. Total incidences 6,137, and incidences 6,137. Calls for service 4,939. Life-saving interventions 33. Emergency medical dispatching incidences 1,001, and 1 Narcan deployment. I think it's important to highlight that these statistics don't just reign true for the sheriff's office. It is rocking and rolling right now as we are in a very busy summer for all of our partner agencies. Couldn't do it without them. We are grateful for all the strong partnerships that we have. In that last month, also 300 cases, 360 citations, total arrests 109, 51 of those felony, another 58 misdemeanor cases, 7 fentanyl cases, and we've had about 96 unhoused contacted. Now, I don't want to make it sound like that's individuals who are experiencing homelessness that are out causing riffraff. That's us also going out, doing those routine checks to make sure that folks aren't going back into those properties where we had previously removed them from, and routine checks also out at the Camp Justice site as well. We have 7 search and rescue incidences that were logged for last month. We are currently on another one right now in preparation to transition into recovery should that be necessary. But right now we have our search and rescue team and a whole array of assets that are focused on up the hill right now. Not prepared to give out any other information on that, but we're working through it. So rocking and rolling, staying busy, and I just wanted to give that quick update as to where we were at with those 2 questions. Matter of fact, before I forget, I'm going to bring up the nemesis here. I'm going to open the box and talk about ALPR for just a second. I did a press release on ALPR technology. I know that there's a lot of information swirling around social media. I will say it here in front of all of you. We don't have any ALPR cameras. We haven't purchased any. As we talked over a year ago, I said that if we decided to move forward with that technology, code says we have to come back for a public hearing, and that would come back not without public discussion. So I know I've said that on my own platforms in my press release, but just to bring continuity to all of our clear communication, like I said, there's some ambitious people out there that are kind of running with some misinformation. It's important to me that we have clarity as to what our position is and that we have been on the same page for making sure that the people are included, and there's no guarantees of anything. If this is something we can't find a good fit, I won't even bring it back to this board. But trying to find that balance between a community that supports aspects of ALPR and then some that don't, I want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence to ensure that we have the best information that we can before we even decide to go forward or not. So I hope that clarifies anything. I'm sure you've gotten some phone calls about that, and if you haven't, then hopefully this helps avoid any future phone calls so you won't have to repeat yourself. But there's nothing else for me. I'll go back to my seat.
All right.
Thank you,
sir. Any other staff reports? Seeing none, all right, board reports. Any board reports?
I got a couple things. We don't need an update right now, but maybe Roger, on the next agenda, we could figure out where we're at with local preference. I know we talked about it. I know kind of fell off the map, but get back to that at some point. To kind of point out to what Carol was saying about the kiss and make up thing. The city sits inside my district, so I'm probably the best one to answer or address this. I usually try to attend at least one meeting a month. The first Monday, or the first meeting that falls on a Monday, I try to go. The last 20 of them, I think I've missed like one of them, maybe 2 because I've been gone. I try to be a good partner of the city. We have some individuals like the vice mayor that want to stand on a little soapbox, scream and yell, essentially about nonsense. So it's hard, Carol, to kiss and make up with them when we try to extend a hand and they swipe at us and say we don't do anything. They give us a hard time about the fire we just recently had, but our sheriff's department made all the notifications, made all the evacuations, and helped out. They don't ever sit and talk about, and it bothers me even to have this conversation because I've tried to extend a hand to them to try to talk with them, and I'm not sure what's going on, but you're right. These comments are getting more and more vocal. What you don't see is our board doing that. You don't see us at every meeting taking a swipe at the city. We try to be good partners, try to talk with them. But, things don't get recognized. The fact that Greenleaf Road, and that road right there, the county pays 90% of that maintenance, and we do that. But we share the road. Our animal control goes when they need a hand. We don't send them a bill. But maybe these are things we need to start doing to recognize the cost of what the city tries to help, or what the county tries to do to help out with the city. I tried to talk to the vice mayor. He says he didn't want to have that conversation. He wants to have it in public. So I will be at his next meeting, and we will have this conversation in public. I don't think it will go well for him because the city is yelling this, but doesn't stand on the facts. Like I said, I told them we can be good partners. We're not always going to agree on things, but we can always be civil and have a conversation. And where we can't agree, we find common ground, we get something done. And if we disagree, that's fine. And it's, you know, they're holding a development project. Here, I'll just tell you guys, Dutch Brothers are trying to hold hostage. They won't give them an encroachment permit because they want a tax sharing agreement out of us. Everyone yells economic development, but they want to stop economic development. It has nothing to do with not the homeowner, but the landowner that wants to build a development in our town, to bring jobs to our town, to bring tax dollars, because we won't give up part of our land and give it to them. And I try to be honest with them. Our board does not have an appetite for that. It's been talked about. It's been very clear. They may not like that news, but I try to be honest with them and tell them, look, sure, I could bring it for you. It's not going to go anywhere. So all we're doing is wasting time. And so, and all that does is take the existing pie and slice it smaller. So when the county gives something up and gives it to the city, that's less the county has. So it's less money we have to achieve the county goals. What we need to do is grow that pie, make it bigger where we both prosper and win. And I don't think that happens in that scenario. There's more than just sales tax, has to do with property tax and everything else. So it's unfortunate. Like, I obviously knew that happened 2 meetings ago. I just found out from Mrs. Dow that this happened last night. I will go back and watch that and address it appropriately, but just so people in the county know what's going on. And so you've never seen us go to their meeting, throw a tantrum, storm out here and slam a door like we've watched the vice mayor do here. It's unfortunate. That's how Andy wants to behave. So we'll go ahead and I will be there at the next meeting to have this conversation with them. Had another meeting to attend last night. The only reason I wasn't there last night. So I don't know how many other supervisors feel about that, but that's what I got. So
I will kind of jump on that as well. I was dismayed and surprised that the mayor would take a shot at Supervisor Campbell at the last meeting. I listened to the meeting. I think that's unfair and not professional. If they have an issue, they could come to us. I agree. We need to kind of work out, but it's tough for us to be the organization that puts out the cheek to get slapped, if you will. So Supervisor Hollins, you know, that, like you said, it's in his district. He'll represent, you know, accordingly. So we'll try to move forward. But I hear what you're saying. With that being said, I don't know if I said it last time, but we had Congressman in Groveland did the tour. We got Lumsden Road open. We're trying to find a way to get Wards Ferry open. For the official record, Wards Ferry Road between Sonora and Groveland is closed. There's supposed to be stop signs there. There's supposed to be things, but some people choose to go around it or move them or what have you. If you are knowingly traveling on a closed road, whatever happens is on you, meaning the liability that could come from that. So just we're working on that. We know it's an important potential evacuation route, as well as it's a key pickup point for the rafters, so we want to be supportive of them as well. So other than that, I think that's all I have. Supervisor Brandon?
Yeah, I think it was covered with a really good meeting there we had with Peter Strait and a researcher as well with the COIN program, the Department of Insurance that does investments with some of those funds, actually putting that money to good use in projects that can reduce fire risk and that. So I thought that was a really good discussion. There's a few others, Blue Forest and whatnot. I think they are looking to Tuolumne County as a leader for the work that we've done. And hopefully that will continue to be a priority. I did just want to mention to the public comment on licensing. You know, this was one of the things that was very actively discussed with business licensing. Right now, there is no process where the county actively vets professional licenses or anything like that. That would have been probably about $15 or $20 a year to be able to perform that process. But unless somebody calls a criminal complaint in, and even then, I'm not sure that would, pull out contractor license papers or anything like that. There's really not an active process. So I don't think Sean's still in here, but if he's watching the meeting, that is something is where do we have that active kind of interdiction in there to actually review whether or not that is a person qualified, they're insured. So valid points, if the work is bad or they leave halfway through, homeowners are often left holding that bag. And that's unfortunate if we don't really have a turn to it. And then just one last thing to highlight, and Vanessa, thank you for being here, and Waste Management. I know we received a number of calls I think it's great that we're going to be scheduling a meeting with county staff to be able to discuss that. I think it's just we never want to be surprised by a policy change, so I appreciate the promptness. I also appreciate you showing up directly to be able to talk to us. Hopefully that will hold until we have that discussion and figure out what's going to move forward. And only last thing is with the city, this is something I believe when Supervisor Campbell was chair, I believe we adopted something for joint meetings. And that may be one of the symptoms. It's not always great between cities and counties. As mentioned, that tax sharing just in general means there's always some level of tension. So looking at that, maybe an opportunity would be having a joint city-county meeting about some of the concerns they brought up, where it's not going through just individual actors, which in either sense is not really representing the whole group. I would be open to that. I think that would be a positive step.
Thank you. Supervisor Campbell.
I guess I'll start where you left off there, Supervisor Brandon. So you're correct. When I was chair, we did establish a standing meeting with the city, and it was the city that rejected continuing on with that. I had then, and I continue to be open to meeting with them in an open forum like we did at that time, but we've unfortunately not had any kind of positive response from the city on that. And as far as the mayor goes, I never once received a call from her about any of her concerns. It surprised me to hear that she had them. She has my number. I'd be happy to talk with her about any of those things. And I feel that I've been one of those supervisors that has supported and helped the city more than almost any supervisor in the past. I helped them with their CARE Act funding. I helped them in many ways. And I've always been open to communicating with them. I don't know what the problem is over there. There hasn't been any communication that preceded what I heard. But I did want to, talk about the important business of the day, which is serving our constituents. So at the ATCA meeting that we had on Friday, I established an ad hoc committee to focus on fundraising for the food bank. So we have secured enough funding to kind of get us through the crisis that we had with the food bank in the short term. But long term, some of the federal funds that we have depended on at the food bank are not going to be there for the next 2 years. And so we have to figure out a way to address that. And so I've established a committee. We have some good membership on there. Supervisor Brandon is a member on the ad hoc committee, and we're going to look at ways to raise money and find alternatives to keep the food bank open, because it is, I don't need to say it's a critical resource in our county. It provides food to all the church pantries. It's kind of the center of this hub of resources that get spread all throughout the county, from Groveland to Tuolumne City to Columbia. So it's going, whatever it's going to be going into next year and the year after that is different than it has been for the past 5 years or so. That's the one thing we know for sure. The things that I've been hearing most about from constituents are flock cameras, data centers, and the bridge at Willow Springs. Understand people are impatient to see it repaired. It's taken about 2.5 months, which is a long time. The first chunk of that, first about month and a half, was just addressing some issues with utility lines, sewer lines, water lines, AT&T phone lines that were in the way. That took way more time than it should have. But I'm happy to say that we're going to be doing surface treatments on Thursday. So they're going to be laying down road on Thursday, finishing up throughout next week, and then we're going to have the best bridge. It's really a box culvert, but we call it a bridge. Best bridge in the county, newest bridge in the county. So I really appreciate the patience that people have had, and at the end of it, we're going to have a really good egress route for that community that really only has, technically they have 2 egress routes, but one of them is a private road. It's not really as suitable. And then the last thing I'll mention is I was up in Sacramento last week, which is probably the least favorite thing I had. Well, there's a lot of good people up there, but also dealing with the politics of Sacramento is one of my least favorite things. And there's a lot of discussion amongst county supervisors about whether or not to support, as a state organization, some of these propositions. Now, I've been taking a position that, for example, like Prop 2, which is the rainy day fund limits, our own representative Tangapa has been pretty vocal against it. I've advocated for our state association not taking a position on it because it is so contentious. I feel that it weakens our position if we have, 51% of counties supporting it and 49%. Like that shouldn't be how we support propositions. It should be overwhelming support, in my opinion. So that's some of the discussion going on at the state level, and it is the typical what you would expect, rural versus urban suburban dynamic going on. The benefit there is that I'm the leader of the rural caucus for our county, 27 counties, and so we do have a very large voice on the board of directors for CSAC, and I think we've been throwing our weight around in ways that has been beneficial for rural counties. So that's my report.
All right. Supervisor Kirk.
Sure, just a few things. First, thank you to the community and people who've been reaching out trying to get a hold of me. I did take a few weeks off. My daughter had spine surgery and she's recovering, and I've been by her bedside. So I did miss some meetings and some things. My apologies, but family first. So other than that, I have had some meetings specifically with, I know it's the middle of August, but snow's coming, and we learned some stuff from last year's snowstorms. A lot more snow, a lot lower, quick, and so it created quite a bit of chaos. So working with Dodge Ridge, working with Blossom and our road superintendent to come up with a better game plan for those snow events, including CHP. We're going to have another meeting coming up soon with a lot more players, specifically on Dodge Ridge Road. We had a lot of people parking illegally and then basically creating a complete just zero movement. So the whole point is we're working on what better snowplow operations might look like, and also what Dodge Ridge might look like on those crazy events, because it trickles all the way down through the community when that road closes. The other thing is, same thing, flock cameras getting blown up about it. The more I look into it, the more I'm a little bit more confused. The way everything, the way government basically, flock cameras are private, but then government can contract and get data. So it's basically like a work behind to potentially get information that we probably think should not be accessible. So all that to say, I'm still looking into it. I know Santa Clara, some other counties banned it completely. I might in the near future put something on the agenda to see if we want to discuss maybe a similar policy avenue. I'm not sure yet. I need to better understand it, but a lot of people are concerned about their privacy and the way just technology is headed. It's been going this way for a decade. But I'll be looking into that, and so if you see something on the agenda in the near future to just have a discussion, that's kind of where it's coming from. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And after being kicked under the table, Supervisor Holland.
I was going to let Supervisor Brandon know, yes, we don't issue license or enforce them, but the people can call the California State License Board, and they actually will come enforce licensing or non-license. That's the actual enforcement agency, and that's who issues them and will respond accordingly. So just so you know, or the citizens know, that's who they call. State. Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? All right. Seeing none, we'll go to, I'll take a quick poll from my partners here. Does anybody wish to pull anything off the consent? Because what I'd like to do, we have two appointments, one at 9:30, one at 10 o'clock. If we can do consent and then the last item real quick, then that'll give us our two appointments, and then that would conclude our day. So if that's good for the group and that's good for the people in the audience, kind of know where we're up to, we'll go from there. All right. So with that being said, our next item will be consent agenda. We will be accepting them as provided, both online as well as in the handout. It's items 1 through 7. So at this time, does anybody have any public comment on items 1 through 7? Anyone online?
No hands raised at this time.
All right, we'll bring it to the board for comment. We'll start at the other end. Supervisor Kirk, you have anything?
Just thank you, TUD, for bringing item number 5 to our attention regarding the supporting the Association of California Water Agencies. It fits what we're doing, and with our flume and the scarcity and our Water Smart grant, it all ties in well. So thank you, TUD.
Supervisor Campbell? Brandon? You guys feeling all right? You're quiet today.
Yep.
All right. Well said. All right, I just want to say regarding item number 4, the adopting resolution, application of Cal OES funding the victim witness. That's a great thing. Victim witness in our county is such a great partner. They do a lot of great work. Regarding the item number 5, which was a letter for the California Water Agencies, you're exactly right. That does fit right within our goals and what we want to see. So I appreciate all the staff and bringing these items forward. Supervisor Holling?
I'll just make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right.
I'll second.
All right, it's a first by Supervisor Holland, second by Supervisor Brandon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Passes 5-0. All right, item number 8. Madam Clerk, please read.
Consideration of adopting Resolution 79-26 regarding Chinese Camp TCU Lightning Complex Fire Recovery Fee Waiver, extending through July 1, 2027, and waiving fire sprinkler and solar requirements for rebuild subject to applicable eligibility conditions.
All right, so I actually brought this forward to a degree. I asked Roger to look into this for me. The genesis behind this is that we are rebuilding in Chinese Camp. The state has put a requirement on homes to be built that they require solar and sprinklers, which can be up to $30,000 to $40,000 of additional cost on homes that are being repaired, which would not have been covered by insurance payouts. So this is why I've asked this to be brought forward. So Roger, take it away.
Yeah, so there's 2 things in this. One is the extension of the fee waiver with the rebuilds taking longer, some for people to rebuild. I have also spoken to several community members in Chinese Camp that are preparing to rebuild, and realistically, those costs are far more than $30,000 to $40,000. They're looking at $60,000 to $80,000 for sprinkler and solars on most residential properties that are seeking to rebuild in that area. So I'm asking the board to waive the fees through July 1st of 2027, and to waive the requirement for the fire sprinklers and the solar requirements for the rebuilds in Chinese Camp.
All right, thank you. I'll bring it to the board for questions.
Just comment later.
Questions, sir?
I just have a question. So in the resolution, it references the 60 structures that are destroyed or substantially damaged in the incorporated area of Chinese Camp. Are those the only ones that can apply for this? So you have to have owned a structure that was destroyed in order to get the waiver?
At this time, that is all that we have in the resolution, yes.
Okay. It wasn't super clear about that. I just was just making sure, because I was worried about confusion if somebody is building something, down the road and wanting to have this applicable, it wouldn't apply to them.
No, it would only apply for those properties that were damaged through the lightning complex. I have had the request to bring that back to the board for at least the solar and the sprinklers. I get a lot of inquiries from the community and from builders who are really feel as if it's something in some of the locations where it's just not necessary and it's just not possible. Like my house, it would cost me $50,000 to remove trees to put solar in, and it's just not feasible if I wanted to build in that location. And so I've had a lot of inquiries regarding that in this rural area in the mountains where solar is not always possible, yet it's required by the state of California.
Yeah, I just mean in the burn zone.
Yeah, we're just focusing on the burn zone today.
Yeah, well, that's my question. Is it the burn zone or is it the actual structures that were destroyed?
It's the structures that were destroyed.
All right. Thank you for the clarity.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Any public comment?
I'd like to point out that homeowners insurance policies actually have building code and upgrade coverage, which will specifically cover things not code upgrades since the 2011 building code change, which is when sprinklers and solar came in. So it's not true that insurance will not pay for these. I encourage the county to look deeper into this before you make that assertion. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other public comment? All right. Any public comment online?
No hands are raised at this time.
All right, bring it back to the board for comment. To adjust that, comments are, I've had 3 constituents in that area that have told me very specifically that their insurance won't cover it. So that's why I phrase it that way. So there could be a gray zone, but yeah, I mean, that's the primary concern, is that's why. So any other comments?
I got one. Roger, I remember you guys talking about, out of the homeowners down there, do you know roughly the percentage of the homeowners that did not have insurance down there? Generally?
95.
Yeah, it was very low. That had insurance was very low.
So the people that did not was very high.
It was very high.
Okay.
People that did not.
Like 90% of people.
I don't have the number off the top of my head.
It's about
but I believe
95%.
Yeah.
So I am one that I think we should bring this back, that we should, no, let me rephrase that. We should talk about the sprinklers and solar thing at another meeting and possibly look at it countywide because it is a requirement. It doesn't make sense. The state says, put on a solar system. They could care less if the trees are in the way, but I'd like to see if we can agendize that later.
Okay.
I was only going to add that I completely agree, regardless of the insurance situation, and that does make perfect sense that it would be required to cover that, but most of them were uninsured. Nonetheless, I think it's an unnecessary requirement. It's one of those making the perfect the enemy of the good. A house with solar, fantastic. Sprinkler system, okay. But if that then prevents 5 or 10% more people from being able to have an affordable home, that doesn't make sense to me, the cost benefit of that. So I'm in full support, Chair. This is a good idea. I'm happy we have eligibility conditions to be able to do this at least in a targeted way. If there is a way that we can expand it to a more county-wide exemption, I think that would be a positive step. So I'd look forward to seeing that come back.
Thank you. Supervisor Campbell? I'm just going to go down the. All right, Supervisor Kirk?
I was going to say, I think we've had conversations in the past with CDD about, like, why don't we just throw out the building code back to like 2008 because it's ridiculous. But I mean, I just don't want to waste time. Isn't that just like a puppet show? There's no way that I'm for the conversation, but I don't know how we're going to apply that to the entire county where you can't do solar and sprinklers. So is that what you're proposing, Mike?
I think Walter's going to have a fit if we keep talking about it. So
Okay.
We'll vote on this.
Because if let's have that conversation. I don't see how the state's going to.
We'll talk later.
Yeah, they could care less. They could care less.
This action by the board goes into an area where the state has preempted the field. The board doesn't have the authority to waive certain state requirements, including sprinklers and solar for new builds under the building code, because these were identified structures in a fire burned area that was destroyed by a fire emergency. There is some latitude to be given, but the board cannot do this countywide for all new construction. Cannot.
Well, and that was kind of the reason for my question earlier, is that the exception, I guess, that the state makes for issues where there's catastrophic wildfires that destroy structures, can we expand that to the footprint of the area that was damaged or that experienced fire, and not just the structures themselves that were destroyed and need to be replaced? Because it's splitting the baby. So we're not doing a countywide change to the ordinance that's going to supersede the state law, which we can't do. I understand that. But there are special considerations for areas that have had these wildfires, which we have several areas in our county that fall under that. At least for those areas, could we
Yeah, some would
make
argue that
exceptions.
you cannot do it even for the fire burned areas. So
Okay.
the,
Anyway, that was where my idea,
Well, and I'd be
question was
interested,
coming from.
I was wondering if there was maybe something that was passed, again, we can't go below what the state requires us to do, but whether there was some flexibility built into some type of legislation that allows us to do it. If there's any other jurisdictions that we might have found that are doing that, I would like to know how they did it, and what they put on the books, what the risk was. If not, I'll just say that makes a great request, because it's not trying to say we're just opposing it categorically. It's saying for this area, particularly where we've got very forested areas, we should have the option to say this doesn't make sense there on the ground. And that is, I think, sometimes the things that can get through in the legislative committees.
Yeah, and I agree with Supervisor Brennan. It's kind of, if we're talking about $1 million house, sure, throw some solar panels and sprinkle whatever you want up there. But what we're talking about, generally, the homes that are destroyed in these types of events are, low income, they're prefabricated homes, they're, trailers, those kind of things. It's just like tornadoes. They tend to be hit worse than the higher end construction. And those are the ones where another 15%, cost increase, it's the difference between having a home and not having a home. And so that's why, I think anywhere where we can focus and eliminate unnecessary costs and regulations on those homes, entry-level homes, the, starter homes, that's, I think that would be worthwhile.
All right, so with that kind of said.
Can I just add one more thing? In support of that, I think we have some examples that we're going to bring back to the board when we have that discussion, so absolutely. The other thing that I wanted to point out is that for the Palisades fire, the governor signed an executive order waiving these requirements for those, but they did not do the same thing for a Chinese camp. So that's why we're bringing it to the board at this time, because they did not waive it for us, but they did do an executive order waiving those requirements for the Palisades fire.
There you go. There's a precedent.
Go figure. Palisades got it.
$15 million home.
Yeah, that's all right.
50,000.
All right, well, we'll leave the political theater there. So with that being said, I'll look for a motion.
I guess if we had more voters, we get more attention. Okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 7926 regarding Chinese Camp Lightning Complex Fire.
I'll second.
All right. Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Passes 5-0. All right, I appreciate everyone's patience. We're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break. We'll take a 10-minute break, then we'll go into our first hearing. So a little bio break. Go for it. Thanks. All right, thank you, everyone. Madam Clerk, please read the 9:30 appointment.
9:30 a.m. Public hearing, consideration of adopting Resolution 80-26, approving the vacation of road and public utility easements as described in Exhibit Map 21T-033 Groveland Hotel Development, LLC, attached to the resolution.
I just had to bring up real quick and disclose that I had a conversation with Jaron Newsman from the Groveland Hotel Development, and it's not going to influence how I vote today. Just wanted to disclose that.
Okay, I was going to do disclosures here a little bit further down, but thank you for that. All right, with that being said, we'll go ahead and officially open this public hearing. It is 10:10 a.m. County staff, take it away.
Good morning, Board. Blossom Scott Heim, your Public Works Director, and with me today is Jocelyn Lemus, our County Surveyor, and Galen Greitz, an engineer with our Public Works Department.
Good morning, Board. Today's public hearing is to consider the vacation or abandonment of road and public utility easements for Way Station Drive, Way Station Frontage Road, and the relocation of Memorial Lane or Memorial Drive in Big Oak Flat in conjunction with tentative re-subdivision map T21-33. Here we have a brief overview of the project. Groveland Hotel Development, LLC wishes to vacate the road and public utility easements per tentative re-subdivision map T21-33, and in conjunction with Site Development Permit SDP 20-005, which was approved by the board in 2022. The affected roads were created in 1985, but were never constructed, with the exception of Memorial Lane and Memorial Drive, which we'll cover in a subsequent slide. Today's hearing is held per California Streets and Highways Code, and the tentative subdivision map expires next month. Here's an overview of the Groveland Hotel Development LLC property and the surrounding properties. Memorial Lane and Harper Road are both county-maintained roads that intersect with State Route 120. So you can see that kind of on the upper right-hand side, we see Memorial Lane, and towards the lower left, we see Harper Road. The history of this project.
Ma'am, could you go back one? We're trying to find Harper on that.
Of course.
No, it's way at the bottom right here.
Way at the bottom, sorry. My mouse won't show up on the screen there.
Thank you.
Of course. The history of this project dates back to the 1980s, when a project was proposed in conjunction with parcel map 85T-46. The developer entered into a subdivision agreement with the county at that time, bonding for future improvements in order to receive their final map approval. After numerous amendments, a notice of default was recorded and the project was abandoned in 1994. In 2020, Yonder Yosemite LLC applied for a SDP to build 70 duplex cabins, a 35-room lodge, and associated amenities and parking. The SDP was approved by the board on April 26, 2022. In September of 2021, tentative re-subdivision map T21-33 was submitted and approved by the county surveyor. So just kind of showing some of those items we've talked about. Here we have the parcel map, the cover sheet of the parcel map from 1985 that created the road easements and included the dedication of the roads to public use. We'll look at that dedication in a little more detail in a couple slides. This is the second page of the map showing the road easements. Way Station frontage road kind of going diagonally along that top left. Way Station Drive intersecting that and heading southeast. And then Memorial Lane in its dedicated configuration, not in the configuration it was actually built, but it's showing it as it was dedicated on that map. I think I skipped ahead too far. Oh, it looks like I removed the slide with the actual dedication, but we have that dedication on the front where the owners dedicated for public use all three of those roads. So here we have the current tentative re-subdivision map 21T-033 as submitted by Yonder Yosemite LLC and Groveland Hotel Development LLC. The map shows the road easements to be vacated as well as the realignment of the Memorial Lane easement. You can see that towards the right-hand side. The lighter dashed lines are the area as dedicated on the 1985 map, and then the road as built and the new easement that fits the construction of it is a little to the right of that. Here we have the site plan for SDP 20-005, showing the vacation of the road easements for Way Station frontage and Way Station Drive, and the realignment of the Memorial Lane easement fitting those actual improvements. In order to approve the vacation, your board must make findings under California Streets and Highways Code 8324B that the street, highway, or public service easement described in the notice of hearing or petition is unnecessary for present or prospective public use. In this case, Way Station Drive and Way Station Frontage Road. Your board may also provide that the vacation occurs only after conditions required by your board have been satisfied, and may instruct that the vacation not be recorded until the conditions have been satisfied. Based on those findings, we recommend that your board adopt a resolution approving the findings required under Streets and Highways Code sections 8320 through 8325, the vacation of the road and public utility easements as described in Exhibit Map 21T-033, Groveland Hotel Development LLC, attached to the resolution.
Okay. Was there somebody online that was going to present? Sorry, I was informed right before the meeting started that we were going to have somebody online that wanted to present.
For the project proponents.
Okay, That's. County, you've completed your presentation?
We are complete, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, at this time, we'll go ahead and ask the Groveland LLC to come on up and make their presentation. Yes. Yeah, hold on one. Make sure your mic's on here.
Testing.
There we go.
Maybe I gotta get closer to it?
No. We just had to turn it on.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good morning, Chair Griefer, supervisors, staff, and members of the public. My name's Tim Kim with TK Consulting, and I'm the project manager for the project representing the Groveland development folks. James Tate, the owner, is here with us today, and I'll be presenting a little bit of history and key information regarding the road. Then the owner, James Tate, will present a little bit on the vision of the project and why we did abandon that road, the main one-way station through the middle. And then we also, we're hoping for a little bit of extra time. We've got John Kinsey here to speak to the comments that were provided by Cedar Summit. So with that, next slide. I know timing's kind of tight, so I'll go through some of these pretty quick. So we're going to look at for my part, the location and the history, and then we'll talk vision. Next slide. So as I think most of you are aware, this is the location, and it's basically at Highway 120 and Memorial Drive. Next. This was the design. It's kind of interesting from back in the early 80s, a very different approach that basically developed out the entire site, wiped out all the trees and environmental resources, and even developed the kind of hillside to the east of Memorial. Next slide. Actually, could you go back one? You can see a lot of blue lines through there. Those are blue line streams, and we're required to address those, and they're basically some are Army Corps jurisdiction and some are California Department of Fish and Wildlife jurisdiction, and there's some other biological resources that we have to mitigate for. So before we can even start grading this project, we have to mitigate for those impacts and pull resource permits. So were the neighbors to decide to build that road through the middle, it would require a lot of other site development in order to get there. Next. That's a little clearer picture of what that site plan was that was originally approved. Next. So this was the site when it was graded in the early 80s. Next slide. Because the developer abandoned, he actually put in a bunch of infrastructure, graded a lot of the site, put in storm drain improvements, did a bunch of work, and then abandoned it. Next slide. So as a result, it's a pretty dramatic scene out there with the storm drain pipes basically broke off as they had a lot of erosion. What this does is for us to develop the site, it's pretty infrastructure heavy because the grading's heavy, the new drainage improvements and the basins and all that would have to go in there are pretty significant. And so we know that the Cedar Summit folks are saying, hey, we need this road to go through here to serve our property. We're saying that there's two other access roads that they have. If we were to change our site and put this big road right through the middle, number one, it would make our project completely different and it wouldn't be feasible to build it because our project is, as we'll show in the vision, kind of anti-roads through the middle of it. It's a really nice campsite basically. So if we didn't build the road, somebody else built the road, it would cost millions of dollars. We feel like it's a much better solution and makes both projects a lot more feasible to just take primary access off Memorial. Next. This is a little hard to see with the backdrop there, but staff already mentioned the approval process, so I'll skip that. Next. So we did spend a significant amount of time on this project. We worked with a lot of the neighbors, we had outreach to all of the neighbors. work closely with CSERC, with Chamber of Commerce, GCSD, all the county departments, county fire. And so we had several meetings with each so that we came up with a plan that everybody liked and that worked well for everybody. And we also added some pretty cool community benefits like a yard stop on our site and shuttle service that takes folks from our site into town. And so there's a lot of great kind of economic drivers here. We've got employee housing, we've got some food service, and we put all the parking and drive areas at the front along Highway 120, so it makes the rest of the property really nice. Next. So staff showed this, so we can go to the next slide. When we had done the mapping on this, which was approved originally back in 2021, we had noted that all those roads were being abandoned. Everybody was aware of it. Next slide. And Caltrans was aware. Caltrans worked closely with us on this, and especially on the Memorial Drive access. We had, what we're proposing with this is that when the old developer had created the easements, you can see the easement to the left was the new alignment of Memorial, and he had dedicated that. In our project, we are abandoning that road and moving it back to where Memorial is right now, which saves us and any neighboring development a fair amount of money because the road's already built. Next. So this is what the map looks like now, which again was approved by staff. Next. So public does have access to this existing road. And again, when this is, if and when this is approved by the board, then it will formalize that public access with public right-of-way. Next. So here's a picture of the approved site plan. And basically, you can see the roads along Highway 120 and the parking. That's the primary access. And then we have these, kind of cool trails going all through the property. And those little dots, those are cabins. So you kind of have this glamping, which is, nice accommodations, but you're connecting to nature, and we've got trails and that kind of thing. Next. We further, okay, so this shows if this, it's a little bit hard to see, but if the road had to be put back in, it kind of wipes the development out because it goes right through the middle of a lot of what we're planning to do. In addition to that, there's a really steep slope. So the previous developer along the south edge of the property where you can see our development ends, that's where the neighbor's property is, the Cedar Summit folks. There's a huge hill there. And so the previous developer had the road in there and had a 20-foot retaining wall. If you were to run a road through our property and face all the challenges I mentioned, which, we wouldn't approve the rights to the stuff outside of the road, then you would have to go up a really steep slope that I'm not sure even would meet county standards with diesel RVs. So I do a lot of RV development, and we don't believe that's feasible, even if the road was put there to get up that hill. I could be wrong on that, but I've done a fair amount of it. Next. So again, here's a little closer look at the project, and I'm going to have James Tate talk for just a couple minutes on the vision, and then we'll have John Kinsey address the other comments. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm James Tate. I'm the developer and the owner of this project. This was a kind of deeply personal project for myself in terms of personal, financial, and time commitment, which is about 70% of all the costs was mine personally. And have been coming up here for decades, and actually was on a road trip with my dad in 2019 when I first came upon a sign for sale for the SCAR. Called Mary, the owner, heard about the history. We have a small brand of kind of glamping boutique hotels called Yonder that really capture old RV parks and pieces of land that were traditionally kind of not loved or cared for, and we kind of apply the kind of new ethos of lower density, kind of back to nature landscape hotels. So saw this piece of property and I couldn't believe that it was a stone's throw from the gate, and engaged on a 2.5-year process to work with the community and the owner to find a project that would reflect, I think, the future of what the community wanted. And so we developed this, I spent 2 years up there, and we were before the board several years ago. And I think we came to something that everybody really was excited about. And so the idea here was to remove automobiles from this piece of property and to repair the damage that the poor grading and development that had been done in the 80s done, and really reimagine it as an improvement in every way. And so you can see we pushed all of the parking to the peripheral with the anticipation of, besides fire road access, inside to have everybody move within it, either on foot, on bike, or in a golf cart. And so that's what we did. And the idea was that we built something that was kind of healing this property, and that the physical development specifically was to remove traffic density and light from the property, so that people coming on here could have an experience of being out in nature, almost as they would within the park. And it's kind of hard to imagine that, actually be on the property today, but we were going to plant 1,000 trees, and, we were really going to improve it. And so, the idea was that we would have really relatively small communal buildings that didn't have roof lines, I think above 30 feet. They were these individual and duplex cabins, each very, very specifically sited into the landscape to avoid these wetlands and to really nurture this meadow that's running down the middle, and all of the requirements with the drainage that that all the erosion has created. And so, we came up with this really holistic, beautiful site, and are doing all the things required to kind of bring it to fruition. But this has then popped up that, the road would drive directly through the middle of it, and effectively just kill the entire project. And so, I'm here just appealing for a project that I love, and putting a face to this, that, I live within 2 hours of here, and, am open to, and I'm always up here. So thank you for having me.
All right.
Good morning, Honorable Supervisors. My name's John Kinsey. I'm legal counsel for Groveland Hotel Development. I was asked to respond to the comments that the county received late last week. That was the genesis of the letter that you have in front of you. I know that's a lot. That's primarily for the written record, to make sure that the record is complete. But I did want to just highlight some of the issues that were in those objections that the county received late last week, and to make sure that the oral record is clear before you. The commenting parties have raised several issues regarding the issue of necessity that are frankly without legal or factual merit. A finding that the easement is unnecessary is supported amply by the record here. Now, next slide. The first argument that was raised is that Way Station is supposedly the sole legal access to the Cedar Summit property. That's just not the case. First, Memorial Drive is an existing roadway that does in fact provide access that can be utilized today. In addition, we did our own research, and we uncovered the fact that there is an easement that was retained by prior owners of the Cedar Summit property that provides them with a roadway easement to Harper. So they have two available points of access, notwithstanding Way Station. And so it's just absolutely inaccurate to say that Way Station, which doesn't even exist today, is the sole legal access. Next slide. In fact, you currently can't use Way Station to access the Cedar Summit property. It's not an existing public roadway, and the staff report explains that. In addition, any hypothetical use of Way Station for some undefined future project is not a public right, relevant to the issue of necessity. It's a private right, a private subjective desire. Next slide. There were some arguments in the objections that Memorial isn't sufficient because it doesn't meet fire code requirements as it sits today. That, I would submit, is completely irrelevant. There's no way to develop the Cedar Summit property to commercial uses without performing some sort of roadway improvements. That's part and parcel of the development process. So, if Cedar Summit does want to develop their property, they will have to comply with fire code requirements. That's just part of the development process. And that's whether they use Way Station, Memorial, or Harper's. So the fact that a roadway may not meet fire code compliance for a hypothetical future commercial development just simply goes without saying, but it's irrelevant to the issue of vacation. Next slide. And what's ironic here is that, well, first of all, Way Station doesn't exist. And it likewise doesn't currently meet fire code requirements, of course. It would need to be very significantly improved in order to even be appropriate for commercial development. It would require land outside the existing alignment that's owned by my clients. And there's no evidence that was submitted by Cedar Summit to even demonstrate that the development of Way Station could even be feasible, including with the slopes, with the mitigation for the regulatory compliance, and with issues such as drainage. There's just no evidence that it would even be feasible for commercial access to Way Station. And we would submit that it's not feasible. The most appropriate solution is Memorial, which currently exists, and the easement that Cedar Summit retained to Harper. Next slide. There was an argument that there's some existing highway infrastructure that supposedly demonstrates ongoing use. But again, that is completely irrelevant. It doesn't go to any of the elements that the county needs to decide to determine whether vacation is necessary, or I'm sorry, whether that roadway is necessary. And Cedar Summit's subjective preferences for access, again, not relevant under the statute. Convenience is not relevant under the statute. The issue's necessity, and here, Cedar Summit has not demonstrated necessity for Way Station, in fact, quite the opposite. Next slide. Sorry, one more. There's an argument that Caltrans was supposedly never consulted. Again, that is not a requirement under Section 8324. But more fundamentally, this argument is completely based on an inaccurate factual premise. Caltrans was aware of the project, they were consulted by the county, and in fact, if you go back and look at the environmental document and some of the other materials from when this project was initially approved in 2022, there's a demonstration of that dialogue with Caltrans. Caltrans did provide comments on the project, feedbacks on the project, which were ultimately incorporated. Caltrans was a part of this process. Next slide. In fact, here is some of the evidence of Caltrans' involvement and feedback. This is all in the public record, all received by the county, and it's evidence of that replete, or the evidence is replete with that interaction with Caltrans. Next slide. And here we have some more. So again, this is extensive communication, and the record reflects that. Next slide. There's an argument that Cedar Summit purchased this property in reliance upon being able to use Way Station. Again, reliance is not accurate to the statutory findings that are necessary to find vacation. Accuracy of Cedar Summit's due diligence, again, is not relevant. But more fundamentally, if anything, my clients have relied upon these prior approvals and actions of the county. They've been developing this process, spent many years developing the process, expended significant financial investment in the community of Groveland and in the county generally. So if anybody has relied upon the process, I would submit that's the applicant. So in closing, if vacation of Way Station isn't effectuated, it really does threaten the viability of this project. And certainly the project would look completely different to a point where it simply wouldn't make sense to develop. And that would be unfortunate, given the significant investment in Groveland in the county that would be decimated if Cedar Summit is successful. Cedar Summit is asking the county to go down a pathway that would cause significant damages to my clients. And I urge you not to accept that invitation. It's just not the right thing to do. It will result in the decimation of this development. And frankly, those arguments are not supported by law or fact. So I respectfully request that the board approve the vacation. We certainly appreciate your time and deliberation, and thank you so much.
All right, well, thank you. That's it? All right. All right, so, okay. All right, so next thing will be acknowledgement of communications by board members. I'm going off the script that the legal counsel gave me. So I have met with some of the people on both sides of this. I'm neutral and objective, so I just want to put that out there after hearing everything and just make that claim. Any other comments? Okay. With that being said,
I mean, I guess I'll just, for safety's sake, I have visited the property. And
yeah.
I've talked
Oh, that's
to
right. I've been out there.
many people over a long number of years about the SCAR, and I don't believe I've spoken to the applicants in this particular case, but I have spoken to the neighbors, not recently, but over the course of several years I have, and I can be impartial in this discussion.
All right, thank you. All right. All right, so next will be any questions by the board. So who wants to lead off? Do we have any questions? No, I do not, thank you.
All right, I guess I will. Okay. I might have missed on the map, but how long is Memorial Drive as proposed with this change? Or currently? I see the width.
Do you recall the existing length? I don't recall the existing length off the top of my head.
Maybe you can look over at Rich, I bet he knows, since he's the surveyor.
It's slightly longer.
Come on up to the mic.
No, you get to stay now.
Thank you. My name's Rich James. I'm the land surveyor representing this development. Memorial Drive, in its current configuration, I don't know the exact length. I think what you're probably getting to is cul-de-sac length limits. I'm fairly certain we still meet those requirements, even with the relocation to the existing roadway that's already there. And really, that's a moot point when we come back out to Harper on the other side. I know that's under the required 830 feet.
That was my next question, is how wide is the Harper easement?
60 feet wide.
You know that one.
From the Simcoe development property at the time of the dedication to Harper Road right away.
I'm pretty sure our lawyer will not accept. I'm pretty sure we're okay on that answer. You know.
No, I'm certain I've read the documents. The deeds were granted as a 60-foot wide easement to the public dedication on Harper Road as
Okay.
per, and I think it's 9 p.m. 31.
And Memorial's 50, right? That's what I saw the width.
Memorial's 50.
Okay. Thanks, Rich. This property was originally all owned by one owner, I think, right? And then obviously whatever happened over time, split up, different parties bought it. Is the way station, I'm assuming the way station road is not a dedicated easement for the parcel behind it. I'm not sure what we're calling the parcel behind it, to the south, whatever we're calling it, the other project.
It was a general dedication,
Okay,
not specific to the parcel behind it.
At the time of the original project development, what we all call the SCAR, Simcoe Development owned both properties. So I believe what that dedication was just to provide an additional access to the property. There's mapping in later transactions where they can clearly illustrate they went a different direction, where they had sold property to neighboring property owners in exchange for those easements to Harper Road.
okay. I think that's it.
Well, thank you. Supervisors? Any questions?
Yeah, sorry, it's a dumb question, but I want to be really clear. So if the opposition parcel obviously is behind Way Station, I just want to be clear, how are they going to access their parcel if we were to vacate that easement?
Currently, that property in the back has 3 points of access.
Okay, can you just show me real quick so I'm clear as mud? You can just point it out right there.
Right here we have
Yeah.
coming down Memorial Drive on the dedication here.
Okay.
We
Okay.
And then down here what's not shown is their third access off of Harper Road.
Okay. So if we vacate that, there'll be 2 access
They
points.
still have 2 points of legal access to the property.
Legal access, but nothing's been developed. And I guess if you develop,
The only physical access to the site is Harper Road, and we are not taking that, or excuse me, Memorial. We are relocating it to fit the physical road that accesses the property.
so
there.
you're making improvements on that road, which they can use to access their parcel.
We are realigning the existing right-of-way dedication to match the road, so they don't have to make additional improvements and straighten that alignment out.
So in essence, you're doing the improvement for that, for access to their,
We're
to that
doing them a
parcel.
favor by taking that step, yes.
Okay. And I don't know I mean, I know the topography, but I don't know the topography extremely well, but does it change anything for them going from Memorial Lane to the rest? Like, do they absolutely need Way Station to access a certain part of the parcel that they could not otherwise?
Physically, you could not access the property via way station. You hit an embankment that's substantial, up 20 to 30 feet high. We're gonna be looking at slopes probably
So-
20% or greater.
So if we were to get rid of the Way Station, I'm not precluding access to any other portion of their parcel, correct?
No, they can go from Memorial Lane, traverse their property and exit Harper.
Okay, all right.
Supervisor Campbell.
So I have a question on that. So from what I'm seeing here, and I looked it up on the map, so it doesn't look like Harper Road connects with the neighboring property, correct? So they would have to build a road through their property and through, I don't know who owns the property to the south there in order to connect to Harper, right?
Correct. If you see down here where we have this 60-foot access easement to Harper Road, that is a deeded access to the Simcoe development or the new Cedar Springs development, I guess, is the
Okay.
new owner.
But we're not talking about, they don't have existing access, they have the right to access Harper Road. I just want to clarify
Correct. They have the
that.
right to
Okay.
access Harper Road, just
Okay,
as
'cause
they have
I
the
was-
right to access Way Station and the right to access Memorial.
Okay, but they
So
don't
let me-
actually have any,
Let me clarify, Memorial Drive is the only road that's currently constructed.
that could bring you from the highway to
Correct.
parcel, okay.
And it's a county-maintained road, and the length to the cemetery gate is 1,065 feet.
How long did you
Memorial's
say?
county owned?
How long?
Memorial's county maintained.
1,000?
All right, a couple of questions there. Question one was how long is 1,000 feet from 120 to the gate? It is county-owned, county-maintained.
Well, hold on, last one. That's to the cemetery gate, but their property line is long before that, according to this drawing, right?
It
Yes.
is. The only information I have right now is the length to the gate.
Okay, because fire code is typically to the property line, not to
Correct.
Correct.
the gate. And Rich is correct about that 2 inches. So I see, oh, sorry, Ryan. Go ahead. On Harper, I see the line in there, but does it actually connect to the road? Because it looks like it just stops and then there's a,
The language in the easements to Harper Road describe a strip 60-foot wide from the eastern property line to the center of Harper Road.
okay.
So, and then if there's a parcel map, which we don't show here, that created those 3 parcels that, or 2 of the 3 parcels that 60-foot easement crosses, and there was a public offer of dedication for that portion that touches Harper Road, and it was accepted by the board.
Okay, good enough, thanks.
All right, any further questions?
I have one last question that came to mind. And maybe I need to wait for the opposition to give their 2 cents, but do they have a project proposed coming for that back parcel that requires Way Station?
They submitted a pre-application review to the Community Development Department last fall, I believe. So that pre-app is just kind of a test the waters, what would we need kind of process.
Okay, all right.
All right, any further questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and open it up for public comment.
Thank you, Board, Chairman. My name's Dan Cucci. I'm with the law firm of Abdus and Cucci. I represent Cedar Summit. I'm going to be brief. I'm going to turn it over to Shireen. who knows this project, her project inside and out. A couple things, though, I want to clear up, sort of big picture here. One, I'm sorry this is before you. This probably could have been avoided a long time ago. The primary thing that I think I want to clear up, it's really important, one, is that my client's parcel is actually part of the map that was proposed for re-subdivision. So there were some sort of things that happened that led to the need to do this process, and we appreciate staff, and I really wanted to thank Cody in particular for being so professional around this issue. And so I think that's really important that you understand the context, why we want to clear up. Way Station Drive was absolutely intended to provide access to Cedar Summit's property. So with that.
Hi, my name is Shireen. I'm a local to Groveland and Big Oak Flat. I'm the managing member of Cedar Summit, the owner of the commercial parcel behind yonder Yosemite. Application 21T033 asks you to permanently remove Way Station Drive and Way Station Frontage Road, the recorded public roads that are my parcel's only viable access. During my due diligence, I contacted the county surveyor's office directly to ask about access. In writing in August and September 25, the county surveyor told me Way Station Drive likely remained my primary access and never once mentioned that a vacation of these roads was proposed back in 2021. The title report also confirmed that neither road had been vacated. I purchased this property in September 2025 in reliance on these recorded roads. Today, under the general vacation procedure the county has elected to follow, the board may vacate Way Station Drive and Way Station Frontage Road only if the legislative body finds from all the evidence submitted that the public service easement described in the notice of hearing is unnecessary for present or prospective use. Making that finding here would require the board to conclude each of the following against the county's own record and the physical conditions on the ground. The roads are unnecessary despite the county's own pre-application review concluding that no other legal access exists. Memorial Drive fails fire code, and Caltrans has flagged unresolved traffic conflicts at that intersection. And I don't know if any of you saw my packet that I submitted, but I took pictures at a driver's view of Memorial Drive and the intersection of Highway 120, and the view, you cannot see oncoming traffic. 2, the roads are unnecessary withstanding the dedicated left turn lane and merge lane already constructed and striped on Highway 120 at the Way Station Drive intersection. Existing state highway infrastructure built specifically to serve this access point and physical proof of present and prospective public use. 3, that the roads are unnecessary despite their dedication to the public on the recorded 1985 subdivision map. And 4, that a commercial parcel adjacent to a state highway can be left with no legally adequate access and with no access aligned to its commercially zoned frontage, which only Way Station Drive provides, and the roads still be deemed unnecessary for present or prospective public use. None of the exhibits I submitted describes these roads as unnecessary. Not the county's own review, not Caltrans' own confirmation, and not the 1985 map that created these roads in the first place.
Ma'am, give me 1 second.
Sure.
With the board's permission, I'd like to give her some extra time. Is that okay? And so what we're going to do is, we're going to give you some extra time, right? We want to make sure that we hear your side completely.
Sure.
I wasn't aware you're going to be here, so I would have offered that in the beginning, so that's my bad. That's okay. So what I'd like to do is give you 3.
As a public hearing and a opponent, I don't know if council, normally we give them longer than a public comment amount of time in general.
Well, and that's what I was going to do, right? So give her some additional time. Because we're in the public comment section, how much time we give her, we have to give everybody.
If we give it to the public comment, exactly that.
Right.
If we note that this is basically a project opponent, I believe they get, we've standardized, 15 minutes?
15 minutes, yeah.
I'm good. I brought this up. I'm going off the script that I was provided, so I want to make sure that we're.
We did have a procedure where we had 15 minutes for proponent and 15 minutes for opponent. We actually got rid of that, and I can't remember the legal reasons, but
15 minutes is
what I understood we landed on
what should be
is
given.
that instead of having that hard and fast rule, we allowed the chair to have the discretion to allow more time for both parties.
Correct. The problem is we said that this was public comment, and now we have the opponent, and so they should be given full time to lay out their case.
So in this case, we will not consider this their public comment. We'll just tell them, well, for the record, clarify this as her opposition.
That's correct.
And so it'll be 15 minutes.
Correct.
Is that good? We want to, was that, and then we'll do public comment afterwards? Yeah. Okay, so is that, okay. So with that being said, we're going to take a step back. We're going to say this is not public comment, or we're going to close public comment. We're going to give you 15 minutes. You're already 3 in it, so I apologize for breaking your flow. So.
Yeah, just to clarify, we only have a few more minutes here.
I know, we just want to be respectful
Other than
and
any
fair.
questions you may have.
Okay. All right, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so 40 years ago, the county itself described Way Station Drive as the site's access. Its own 1986 referral letter on the parent parcel's development states, access will be provided to the site by Way Station Road, a proposed roadway under construction. That description has never changed on the county's own maps or records, only this application proposes to change it. My RV park development has been stalled for nearly a year over a single unanswered question. Are you going to remove the only legal access to my parcel?
So with that, we're happy to answer any of your questions that you still have. And I would turn it back over to you. Thanks.
Okay, well, and thank you for your patience. Questions?
Yeah, I had a couple questions. So have you submitted, and stop me if I can't ask this, have you submitted a site plan for your RV park development? Okay. And I know that side of the parcel less than I know the front side, obviously, because it's like you can see the part that's right off of Highway 120 really easily, and I've been out there several times. Where is the majority of the RV park going to be located? Is it all across the parcel, or is it?
Yeah, sure. So I don't know if you guys got my packet, but for my parcel has 4 different zones on it, and it's almost split sort of down the middle here past the cemetery. This portion is commercially zoned. This portion here where Memorial Drive is residential. So Way Station Drive was dedicated and made for the commercial zone area.
Okay.
And that's where that would be.
Okay. And then, and I did see that, and I was looking at the pictures that you had of Memorial Lane. So I understand your opinion there. Did you have any plans to connect to utilize your easement to Harper Road at the bottom?
Yes, so,
There you go.
Harper Road, the easement and past plans have been used as an emergency access. So to make it a loop system for emergency to be able to access the backside or come in through Way Station Drive. So that was what that easement was going to be used for, emergency access.
Could you connect that emergency access to Memorial Lane so that instead of it being a loop from Way Station Drive to Harper Road, it would be Harper Road across to Memorial Lane?
I
mean, it's hard to say. I mean, this is the challenge for us is, essentially her pre-app was essentially stopped because it said you don't have access anymore, and that the Memorial Drive was inadequate under the fire code. So then sort of like, what have we got left? And so we don't know, would the county agree to allow that to occur? And we're just kind of in a place where if we sort of say, sure, go ahead, and we'll do that, but then the county says, no, actually, we can't approve that access for you. But, we just can't really answer that.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Can I also make note too that when I submitted my pre-application, the governing body for the cemetery also was against using memorial. They said that there was unmarked graves and that Memorial Lane was solely to be used for the cemetery.
Supervisor Holland?
First, I want to thank both you guys, both projects, for wanting to invest in our community. I think it's great that we're arguing over we're going to have too much development, right? So that's kind of a good thing. But right now you can get onto your parcel through Memorial Lane because that is the only constructed road per se right now.
Yeah, it doesn't, it's constructed to the cemetery.
But it touches your property, therefore you can access your property, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you may comment that you can only do the RV park on the commercial, but I might be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure you have to do the RV park on the residential portion of it, not the commercial. Because you have to be high-density residential, I believe, to have essentially what a mobile home park is / RV park through the state.
An RV park can go on the commercial K recreational use.
Okay. You could do it on the residential as well, right?
I don't believe so.
On an R3, well, I'm telling you, you can do it on an R3, so.
Okay.
Yeah. So you could do that. So I think if it's a zoning issue, you could probably come back to a board meeting and explain that case. I think what Supervisor Campbell's getting at is, I don't think Memorial and Harper have to connect. They each have to touch the property to meet the fire code that parcel has flow through to each way. And maybe our fire chief's back there, he could answer that for sure.
I don't pretend to know Tuolumne County's, detailed development standards, but most often than not, you do need a paved road, all the way through. So we would have to improve across the area, which, like she said, you're going to get some real hard pushback on from the cemetery district. And again, as far as we're concerned, she's been told that it's inadequate under the fire code for her use.
Well,
on Memorial.
Probably currently all roads are inadequate under the code. I mean, Way Station doesn't exist, so I mean, that's clearly inadequate because there's no road there. Memorial's the only road. Harper doesn't actually exist. I mean, obviously you're gonna have to spend money that's part of the game, right, to improve them. Okay, so your application didn't go through, so there's some questions you haven't got answered on this. And have you had much conversation with the other property owner? Have you guys actually just had a conversation?
Well, we had a conversation back in November about it. I don't know if you want to know what they said, but
No,
yes.
I'm just curious about that, so that's between you guys. Okay. I think that's my only questions.
And I think I've hammered it enough, but I just want to make clear that there is a left turn lane right now on Highway 120 to Way Station Drive, and a merge lane. So for cars to leave the parcel, there's a left turn lane to come in and a merge lane to go out. So I just want to make that clear.
No, I get what you're saying. It's much easier for you to use that
Yes.
road, right? I get that, but unfortunately, that's not in our preview of your convenience versus different stuff, right?
Right. No, more of just a present and prospective use that there's already that left turn lane there.
Okay, thanks.
So what would your plan be? So let's just say the Groveland Hotel development says, nope, we're out. It's too cost prohibitive. It's not going to happen. Would you develop Way Station out?
Yes.
You'd have to do that?
Yes.
Because your position is, I need to get to my property, and the only way to do it currently is on Way Station. But you could get to Memorial and then the Harper. So technically you would have two ways in and out, correct?
Two other accesses that the county has not told me that I can use. Yeah. The county didn't even talk about Harper Road.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know this area extremely well. I've always wondered why there was a turn lane right in front of, I didn't even know they called that Way Station. I've been up here since 2012. I've patrolled it for 10 years. They had no clue that was there. And then I too have some serious concerns about traffic going on onto Memorial, especially vehicles that the size that you're promoting. And you're right, the line of sight is horrible. There would have to be major engineering. But, you know, what we're faced with now is what is the expectation, you know, the item before us. And so I appreciate you bringing forward your concerns as well. Supervisor Kirk?
Blossom, on Memorial Lane, I see that it ends at the property line, but then I see that there's continued road access to the cemetery. Does the county own Memorial Lane all the way to the cemetery?
Yes, what you see on the map there is an easement that was dedicated with the 1985 map. Memorial Lane was constructed well before that and actually does not lie within that easement, but the county maintains it all the way to the cemetery.
All the way to the cemetery? Okay.
And I just confirmed via our GIS system that the length of Memorial to the property line is approximately 798 feet.
So probably another 400 or 500 to the cemetery?
About 265 to the gate.
Okay, I'm just showing you, okay. I'm trying to go back to the genesis of all this, why we're here today. When we approved this back in 2022, are we here today because we simply didn't notify? As in, was the Way Station Drive easement to be vacated approved back then, and we simply missed a step with notice? Because what I'm hearing her say is she came to the county, asked some folks, which is great to ask folks, but what did the documents say back in August 2025? Were we planning on removing that easement on Way Station back in 2022?
Yes.
And that
The
was
map is
documented?
2021, we took in the map. At the time that tentative map was approved, our staff at the time felt that a summary vacation was appropriate, which doesn't necessarily have to come to the board and have a hearing or undergo a public notification process. The site development permit, the planning side of the project was noticed. The property owner at the time of this rear parcel was noticed, and that site development permit did assume that the vacations would take place, but the vacation itself was not noticed at the time.
So she had mentioned that she got some documents in August 2025. Was that verbal, or was there a document that did not show that easement was being eliminated?
It was a couple of email exchanges with our survey division. Let me just get to that page. Initially, someone in our survey division said that Way Station likely remains the primary access for the parcel. He corrected that the next day, saying that specifically that he made an error. He did mention the map project, the tentative map project, but indicated that they didn't know if it was going to move forward or not.
So, I'm
And
just trying to
then-
play, so I get that
And
she
then
was told that it would,
sent some more research.
so it sounds like she was told that it's the primary access, it can move forward, next day correct it, saying, oh, we're not sure, it might be vacated. And then you still move forward with the purchase, understanding that. Well, no, just a general summary, because I get that coming to CDD staff and asking questions. I mean, I've been steered wrong, and I'm a supervisor. I've been told X, Y, Z, and then, but unless you get the source documents. So what I'm trying to understand is conversations are one thing, but if the documents advise, for example, the next day, whether it's email, if there was uncertainty about that easement and you still move forward, that's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, so,
Well, I think it's important here. So the email is the next day. It does mention that, I was a little in error. It talks about Memorial Road. But it also says there is one map project that has been in limbo for some time in relation to the property. But to my knowledge, there are no plans for it to move forward. If you are in direct talks to the owner, they would certainly know of it, as should your real estate broker.
Okay, and did you ever sit down and have a conversation with the other folks about that easement to get clarity what they were going to be doing? if there was uncertainty?
It was about the owner that was selling the land, and they were never notified, so they had no idea that this was impending. And then there was, the last email that I had was that Way Station Drive will likely be needed, an encroachment permit.
Because that was September 2nd, 2025.
But because I thought we're talking about 2025, because they had owned the property and were developing at that point, but you just said that you were talking to whoever was selling. I guess my question is if they own.
Her property, selling her property.
Oh, selling her property, I'm sorry, okay. Okay. So but we never, if there's uncertainty about access to a parcel that I'm buying, did you reach out to the owners of that property, the folks in front of us, to have a conversation about what their plans were, if there was uncertainty, which staff have provided about that access point?
No, I got a title report that came back with those easements in place.
Okay. But, okay. So it sounds like we had approved it, but we had approved the vacation of the easement, but we didn't notify properly? Just help me out with that piece.
Correct. So at the time that the tentative map was approved in 2021, the staff at the time felt that a summary vacation was appropriate, and a summary vacation does not require a hearing or noticing.
So how would one such as herself get, back in 2025, if we could redo this all over, how would she have known? Would she have to pull some of those documents from the project that was being proposed back in 22, or the approved project?
So how would they have known before the map records?
They wouldn't have,
Yeah.
which is why we're here to
Yeah.
make sure, but clearly they got notice, which is why they submitted their.
Take your time.
So they would not have necessarily known, because the vacations are not complete per se until the final map records, which is that September 14th, 2026 deadline. I will say that the property owner the prior property owner of their parcel was noticed for the site development permit. That map was sent to that owner and showed
Okay.
those roads
So the prior
no
owner,
longer existing.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. The prior owner of the parcel that she purchased knew that there was development going on, should have been aware of all this, of all the plans, even though they hadn't yet been approved because we're waiting until the 2026 date. That wasn't communicated to her. In the meantime, it didn't require a public hearing. And so this is.
Dispute that a little bit.
Well, hold on. I'm just trying to make it make sense in my mind because, well, I don't want to give my opinion. I'm just trying to formulate all the information. So, okay, a lot going on. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
The summer vacation actually generally still requires some action that has a minimum agenda notice. And so people are aware and could show up. But in this particular instance, what was actually processed was a re-subdivision map. Under the MAP Act, the re-subdivision map requires that all parcels involved with the map that's going to be essentially removed and then redone. Requires the involvement of all those parcel owners in order for that to happen. And that can happen at a more sort of staff level process, much like they've done. Unfortunately here, it only involved those front parcels and did not include her parcel, which would also have required, at the time, the prior owner to be involved. And would have to have him sign off on the whole plan about changing those parcels and removing the right-of-way. None of that happened. So that's why, frankly, we're here today.
Okay. All right. All right, we're getting close to 15 minutes here, Supervisor Brandon. Oh, yeah, okay, sorry. Okay.
Cody, what he just said, is that true? About if it has to go to a re-subdivision map? I might as well ask our attorney sitting here. And I love attorneys, they all have opposite opinions of the same factual thing.
Well, Supervisor, I was not prepared to discuss the particulars about the re-subdivision process or any required notice for that. I would defer to our surveyor So I think that's the best answer I can give you on that
Okay.
question.
Somebody on the county team answer this question.
In my experience, from what I've seen, they are re-subdividing a portion of that original map. And so they're essentially taking a few parcels that were created in that 1985 map and re-subdividing those, not affecting the neighboring property. So her property is not a piece of that re-subdivision.
I understand that. But do we have notice, I think his point was there should have been noticing requirements. You know how we send out mailers to everybody and their mother about anything that goes on? Was there supposed to be noticing requirements? I guess that's what I was asking Cody. Was there supposed to be noticing requirements under our county code? Because I believe that's what he was trying to say, if I understood it right.
Well, part of the issue here, is that if this were to be vacated summarily through a summer vacation, that would have come to the board, and as Mr. Cucci stated, that would have required it be agendized, Brown Act notice of just the agenda. There wouldn't have been any individualized notice to any particular property owners for a summer vacation. But part of this kind of cloudy history, the concerns of the neighbor, is why we're here using the general vacation procedures, to make sure everyone has notice, everyone has the right to be heard, and that your board has all of the information and evidence that it needs to make this decision. So that's part of the reason we're using these general vacation procedures as opposed to summary vacation, just to make sure.
Thanks.
And to correct, I can pull up the statute, but the statute requires all parcels involved in the re-subdivision, which is the original map. That's all the parcels. It's not partial parcels. The statute requires all of them. But that was in the past, but that's kind of like what led to this clunkiness that led us here. So we've certainly been supportive of Cody's and his team's recommendation and approach, and we thought it seemed reasonable and fair, and so that's why we're here.
All right, so to be fair, I appreciate you coming up, giving you your time. We'll go ahead and do the public comment. We'll get the public comment knocked out, so come on up. So for the record, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Good morning, John Buckley, Central Sierra Environmental Research Center. The county approved this Groveland Development Project, Yonder Yosemite, more than 4 years ago, and now the adjacent property owner is asking you to undo that approval process, which was planned for the vacation of Way Station Road and the front access road part of it. And that request could kill the project that potentially has so much value for the Groveland community. Our nonprofit center has no interest in any way, financial or any connection with the applicants of the Yosemite Hospitality Groveland Hotel project, but we followed it for years. We provided comments. We saw how the project evolved to be responsive to the local businesses in the Groveland community and all the other interests. And at long last, as it neared the end, we finally were convinced to support the project rather than to be opposed to the project as we'd originally intended to be. Last year in November, when the Cedar Summit project put forward the pre-application, we provided very detailed comments that they certainly were aware of at that time, that that project with the claim to use Way Station Drive was in direct conflict with the county's approval of the Yosemite Hospitality, whatever name we want to give to the project that now has been approved. Further, our staff scientists and I, when the Cedar Summit project was put forward pre-application, visited the site, went up there, Memorial Drive, which I'd been before for previous speculative proposals for that parcel up above. We visited the site and saw it's 10 to 15 foot high brush and oaks that will need to be bulldozed in almost the entirety to allow for their proposed development to go forward. What I have here in my notes is that there's no way that the state and regional boards would allow such widespread clearing and denuding on the slope above the already degraded stream channels on the scar site that are caused by the original bulldozing. Your staff has made it very clear there's legal access on Memorial Drive and off of Harper Road for the site. Their request to interfere with the vacation of Way Station is not consistent with legal requirements, and I urge you to be supportive of your original approval, this board's original approval of the project, which you committed to the public that you are approving the project, and to not now do some action that will interfere with the Yosemite Hospitality Groveland Hotel Development Project going forward, because it has such high potential significance economically as well as providing for visitor services here in the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Well, would he fall into the public comment or?
Argument for the project applicant. It's not public comment.
Okay, so that's I'm sorry?
You close public comment.
And then let him rebut?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any further public comment? Seeing none, anyone online?
No hands are raised at this time.
All right, sir. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Tim Kim again. So I just had a few points that might help provide a little additional clarity. So with regards to the Caltrans safety issue on 120 and Memorial, that's exactly what we focused on when we were working with Caltrans. And so we were conditioned to do some improvements right at that intersection to help avoid, those safety issues. And I could elaborate if you want, but that we did work through that with Caltrans because of the line of sight issue. Second, as to the primary legal access on way stations, so just, I know I kind of mentioned this before, but I've been doing development for about 40 years, and I really feel like this is a blessing in disguise for the Cedar Summit folks. I know they don't feel that way, but it's an extremely expensive proposition, which again, we would really need to be involved in. And if that road had to be built, we wouldn't do it, quite frankly. So, and I've talked to the owner about that. This is a case where you think you're gonna do it and you go get all the cost estimates and you figure out everything that has to be done and you see how many millions of dollars and you're like, okay, this doesn't work. So, I feel like it's in the greatest benefit for both properties to have it be the Memorial Drive and Memorial Lane versus Way Station, for what it's worth. And then my understanding, and this could be further clarified, but in the documentation we had in terms of the timing and when the Cedar Summit folks were notified, August 14th was that email that was described. Our understanding was that the site was not closed on until September. And then they reached out to us and we had our initial call with them in November. So that was post-close, and further conversations were only going to be available if we were guaranteeing that access through Way Station, which didn't work for us. So we didn't have any further formal conversations. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. 11:19, going off the notes that was given to me. So now it'll be discussion for the board. Supervisor Brandon.
Yeah, and I just had a question, some other notes and thoughts on this for a bit, but the point on multiple layers of this being changed and zoning and all of that, it seems that there's a reasonable argument of why somebody might not know that, even if deep in the record somewhere. I just understand where that's coming from. But what CSERC mentioned was that post-buying the property, there was basically discussion directly, not with the project we have here, but the project being proposed behind it that, was timely, relevant. You're very locally informed on the area there and that. I guess, wanted to ask, do we know that consultation happened? Do we have records of that? Because that does change it, whether it's somebody who bought it with the best of intentions, where a reasonable person might think that they had this access, but maybe technically there's multiple levels of paperwork, versus like they got it and got a pretty recent appraisal that, hey, that's not going to work.
I'm sorry, can you clarify the question? Did
What,
consultation?
the comments by John Buckley and CSER about, with the Cedar applicant doing, I think, a pre-development walk, and some of those discussions, notifying them about this process, that Way Station was probably going to be removed, this project was looking at it, that it wasn't, fell out of nowhere, that they were warned about this. Is this something we have evidence of from those meetings?
I can't speak for the planning department, but I have not seen any evidence. We wouldn't necessarily have a record of a conversation or meeting between CSERC and a property owner.
Okay.
But again, I don't want to speak for the planning department.
Well, that's just my main question. I don't know where we'd go from there to kind of find the veracity of it. I guess my comments on this project overall is, based on the zoning, based on revenue, based on, I think, a lot of the design detail that's gone into it for that landscape and what it currently is. I think there's a lot of benefits, and this looks really good. Harper does seem to be an adequate access. It may need to be improved. I agree. Any roads, any of these roads are going to have to be completely redone no matter what. And some will have to be extended. And so the matter of, well, it's longer to extend that, I think is on the person who bought the property, that they may have to be. There are, 3 points, it'd still be 2 points. And seeing Harper, it seems like there's a potential there. I wanted to, highlight one thing, though, that's just a more qualitative concern. I don't know when this was zoned and subdivided this way. It is odd to have along a highway, a long parcel there, and then another parcel that's zoned anything but the AE 37 or a public or a open space easement or anything like that. It's very strange. With that, though, this isn't trying to get too much into your business you're the expert on, but it's a beautiful looking project. And it very much is that low density in the trees, in the forest. And you've got a property behind it that is zoned, looking at the map there, whatever, KR1, a few things, few different zonings. And so just like going out on that path, let's say this all gets approved as is, Way Station's vacated. And they say, well, it's a great idea that eventually it's Memorial Lane's going to connect up to Harper, and that's something that if they're able to pay for it, that's great. And they would like to then go through and clear some of this brush and the trees and that, and maybe it gets approved. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. But if it does, suddenly the backdrop against that, hill there, is not a beautiful cabin in the woods preserve. Maybe it's an RV park. Maybe it's like we've seen at Little Sweden, where it's a big rock retaining wall and there's nothing left. It might not be a concern into this, but I guess the concern is I hope the property owners can find an agreement, because that's not good for your project. And they do seem to have some rights to be able to develop that next to it. And it could be profitable. I mean, we're going to have a next item as an open space, low impact camping thing. That whole thing back there could be made into a giant campsite. And so whatever this fight is onto it, you guys are connected, and I hope that there's something mutually agreeable so that you don't end up into something where the next proposal we get is fully within their rights, technically and on paper, to build, and I don't know what type of RV park, maybe it's a recreational one, maybe it's an affordable housing RV park there, that is in contrast with the vision you're trying to set too. So I don't know. With that, I guess the students, and I'll leave it. I'd be willing to see this come back, to have those conversations. I like to think that sometimes these things, if maybe understand that, like, I think this is a project that, from my impression, will move forward. But your neighbors, and there's going to be more problems if that's not resolved. I would be open to that if the board was interested in it.
So you're saying you want to table this?
I would be open to requesting that conversation happen. I think there was some discussion about there's something we don't know, we need to get surveying staff to tune in on. I would like to hear more and documentation on what was specifically said, what John mentioned with CSERC. So I'd recommend we may table that for a meeting. I'm not we have to table it, but I do think that might be a good idea.
I don't think we're at the position, we could table it, I just don't think we should table it. I think we're here to make a decision on vacating, and that way both parties can move forward accordingly.
I think we all get to have our opinion and
No, I get it.
express mine, and that's totally okay.
All right.
Chair, could I just add one thing? The tentative re-subdivision map, their deadline to submit the final map is September 14th of 2026, and there are no more extensions available.
So, I got a question.
All right.
Blossom, when the map got submitted back in, or got approved back in 2022, I think you guys said it came to the
21.
board. 21 to the board. Why at that point did it not remove the easements at that time when they were redoing this map then?
The proposed tentative map, or the submitted tentative map, did show those roads being vacated, and it was approved in that configuration. The actual vacation doesn't happen at the time of tentative map approval. It happens at either final map approval or through summary or general vacation.
Okay, so if it went to final map, it would cement it at
A final map showing those roads being vacated is part of the process, yes.
Okay.
To
And that's-
finalize
oh,
it.
sorry. Okay, and that final map has to come back to us.
It has been submitted and it is ready to go to Mylar. It just has not been recorded yet because this piece needs to be finalized first.
But it comes back to us at some point, or no?
No, the county surveyor approves that map.
Okay. Okay, so if the county surveyor approved it, then this would all go away, but I believe what Cody was saying was that's not the process. We're gonna do it this way. Okay, thanks.
Supervisor Kirk?
No, he just kind of answered the question that I was trying to get at is, I get that it was approved, but then it had to go through a final process. I think where I'm at with this is, this happens from time to time, whether it's our county or other counties, where people ask questions of CDD. They're told either by somebody who's seasoned or not, or maybe something changed or the code changed, but you really can't. I think if I was buying this property, I would have, knowing that there was an approved project coming, the owner of the other parcel, when they were selling it, should have been more in the knowing, or the realtor should have been knowing more in the knowing of what's going on with that parcel. And I would have just dug a little deeper and maybe looked at what had been approved for this project. And I think if there was some more digging, it would have shown that, hey, there's definitely a possibility that this road easement is going away, which it sounded like it was. So it's unfortunate. But it's going to happen. But where I'm kind of hanging my hat on is in 21, 22, we had approved the tentative plan, knowing that there was going to be a final process that had to take place. And in the middle of all that, if someone's going to buy a parcel, I feel like it's unfortunate, but there should have been a little bit more due diligence on what was taking place that was going to affect that said parcel. So the fact that they have the other easement on the backside and we have a county-maintained road on Memorial Lane, which still gives access, and it actually goes past that property line. It goes to the cemetery, so there's another 200 feet of access. So there's access. I feel like I'm fine with the recommendation of adopting. So I'm going to make a motion to adopt Resolution 8026 approving the vacation of road and public utility easement as described in Exhibit Mapped 21T-033 Groveland Hotel Development LLC and attached to the resolution. That's where I'm at.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further final discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? So it passes 5-0. That concludes our 9:30 appointment, right on schedule. Which leads us to our 10 o'clock appointment. So hopefully that will be a little bit quicker. So we're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break, let the room clear, and then, all right, get my other colleagues to come back. All right, all right. Oh, Supervisor Campbell's doing the long walk. Let's see, we all need walk-up music, I'm telling you. No, the Barry White just popped right into my head as you were walking up right there. All right. All right, madam, please read our 10 o'clock.
10 a.m. presentation and direction regarding low-impact camping areas, LICA, in eligible unincorporated areas of Tuolumne County.
All right, staff.
Good morning, Board. Thank you. Sean Hembry, your Water and Natural Resource Senior Analyst, bringing this item back for your consideration. All right, so this item has been before the Board before, but I'd like to just, first I'd like to provide a summary and overview of what we intend to speak to you about this morning and request your direction. First of all, I'd like to review and clarify the options under AB 518. I'll be brief about that since this has come before the Board before and there's already been direction given. I'd like to provide an update from our local departments and stakeholders and meetings that have occurred since our last meeting. And also coming out of those conversations and recommendations, provide a high-level framework for a potential LICA ordinance that could be a draft ordinance that could be brought back for your consideration in the future if you decide to go that direction. Lastly, I'll request the Board give direction to staff or take action. So in October of 2025, so it's been not even a year yet, California passed AB 518 to differentiate low volume, low impact camping from special occupancy parks, which can have dozens to hundreds of campsites. These changes are not automatic. In order for 518 to take effect, counties must opt in and officially adopt and manage low impact camping programs that's well suited for those specific the settings of those specific jurisdictions. So the choices then are adopt a low impact camping area, which in which case the eligible individuals can participate subject to the county specific rules in addition to the codification brought about by AB 518. The county can also reject the program. That's pretty straightforward. If they take no action, if a jurisdiction takes no action, the optional authority that's granted under AB 518 is not operational. A county's inaction is treated as non-adoption, not implied approval. So in the last 6 months, we've had several meetings with cast kind of a broad net, talking to all of our stakeholders and county departments. We've spoken with the county council, who's given us guidance. Originally, we thought, we can provide a draft ordinance framework and provide these conditions and concept and then develop them administratively. They recommended against that as not best practice. So to not bring an actual ordinance framework before you. We have engaged law enforcement and fire, first responder agencies, both through sidebar conversations and also through the Fire Safety Advisory Committee presentation. We have spoken with other county departments, CDD, planning, environmental health. I'll just say a thank you to Shady and Nadine, who very early on gave us some very helpful feedback and pointed us in the right direction as we investigated this. I will point out, I will also thank Acting Director Root, who participated in that process, but point out that in the absence of a permanently assigned community CDD director, that there probably are some opportunities where we can expand our due diligence in that area. Particularly since they would probably be the permitting authority, and that would be in their house. So assigning how departments interact with each other, county departments, and also outside agencies, and also procedurally how that is done through OpenGov or other processes, in terms of what fines or other processes would be part of that, fees and fines for application or suspension, revocation, all of that would be part of their house. So it would be premature to bring an action or a recommendation, an ordinance, without their review of the permanently assigned director. And since we have that in process now, that's something that wouldn't take very long to complete that action if you decide to go that direction. We've also engaged our water utility partners, TUD in particular, as well as Twain Harte and Groveland Community Service Districts. The community service districts are a little bit interesting because they both act as fire districts with interest and implications for those districts, in addition to having distributed water provided. We got feedback from Visit Tuolumne, CSERC in public meetings and inside conversations we've spoken with. We've spoken with agricultural stakeholders in addition to our agricultural commissioner. We've had conversations with HIP Camp, and we've also done some investigation in how this is being treated in other jurisdictions across the state. I'll just provide a really high-level overview at this point. 3 counties have passed an ordinance like this. 2 other counties have a draft in process, draft ordinance in process. There are 2 other counties that have staff consideration to develop, a draft ordinance. There has been 1 county that has tabled/rejected their interest in this, and 1 county that has actually increased restrictions since the onset of 518. So just to clarify, that's 10 or 12 counties I referenced. There's probably upwards of 20 potential outdoor recreation destination counties that have not spoken to this at all, whether that's because it's too new and they haven't had the opportunity to frame up an ordinance in light of that, its novelty, or if that's because they just are saying, no, thank you, that's not for us, we don't want to participate. There's no way to really know which of those 2, for those other jurisdictions. So coming from our many discussions with stakeholders, both within the county and outside agency and other stakeholders, there's been some common thoughts that have emerged as values and comments that I would like to list here. One is that, there's not broad support for unmanaged camping, and so any ordinance like this should have on-site required oversight from the camp host, from those applicants. Also, fire risk mitigation, that's probably the most common comment that we had. There should be no, unmitigated locations, and that should include inspection and enforcement of those conditions. Environmental health impacts were also regularly noted, and impacts on water utilities and special districts need to be identified and addressed. Lastly, there was a good reception to having kind of a 2-phased, a tiered approach to where we could have a ministerial, over-the-counter permit that when the county can meet all of the site can meet all of the requirements, and in other conditions where there may be a good pathway towards compliance, but they can't meet all of the conditions, there could be a conditional use permit that would tier to all of the requirements that we would have in a potential ordinance. So very much tied to the previous slide, recommendations on a very high level that the staff might bring before you for consideration if you want to move forward with a draft ordinance would be to create a very robust standard for wildfire mitigation. We have kind of developed some bullet points that we think that our stakeholders have discussed. I would be remiss for me to represent that we have solidarity or complete agreement about that, but these are the things that came out of that were best received. So what we have done so far is develop one of the highest mitigation requirements for wildfire of all of the other jurisdictions that I've reviewed. Exclusion of water utility providers and special districts. There are a couple reasons for this. First of all, water utility companies are at risk for losing some of their value in terms of their distributed water. Not all of the sites are metered, which would make it difficult to differentiate between residential use and much more expansive use of water in the areas that have low impact camping area sites. Also, the state of California has an efficiency requirement for those jurisdictions, and if they don't meet those efficiency requirements, they can lose access to public funding, state funding. People treat their water demand very differently when they're on vacation than when they're at home in their homes. So, and that's been demonstrated, particularly, Pete Campa, Groveland Community Service District has spoken on this publicly, and they have demonstrated a very high differential, versus short-term rentals versus permanent residence for other sites. And there was a good reception to the two-tiered approach. So what would that look like again, at a very high level? If a site can demonstrate that it meets all the requirements that could apply under a ministerial over-the-counter permit, kind of hit the easy button, as it were, in locations where not all those conditions can be met, it could be reviewed in a process that probably would be more expensive and more onerous, but kind of a discretionary review process under a conditional use permit. It should be clarified that in either case, there is no kind of workaround to all the building permits, all of the standards that would otherwise be required. This is not a kind of a way to get around that. The only thing that those sites would not have to contend with was the Special Occupancy Park Act requirements. And in every condition also, they must demonstrate continued maintenance to avoid fine, suspension, or revocation. So now we come to, where we will ask the board to give direction. Before we do, I'd like to just make sure that in a fair-minded way, you're considering some of the indirect implications that, may have an impact for our community. And also kind of tease apart the nuanced difference between option number 2 and number 3, because in either case, there's no operating AB 518 program. So first of all, I'd like to just indicate that if your intent is to say, under no conditions, we do not want a low-impact camping area in Tuolumne County, it makes sense to do number 1. The upside of that would be there would be a very clear requirement, leaving little room for misunderstanding or misinterpretation. The risk that goes along with that, if our intent is just really to say no because we don't want abuses, and bad actors kind of having policies that introduce environmental risk or fire risk, but we would be open to a process by which they could mitigate those changes. We potentially, by saying there is no pathway, decrease the visibility for instances where noncompliance would take effect, and would not provide an incentive to those individuals to follow a better pathway that has some oversight. We also lose some of the ability to work with online hosting and booking agencies to read out bad actors and non-compliant folks who have had their permits suspended. So there's a little bit of a advantage to both of those. Also, I would point out that even if we decide to not open a AB 518 program, even a discretionary process through conditional use permit would not have access to the additional flexibility that this provides. So this would occur even for a discretionary process if we say no and we don't develop that. Lastly, what's the difference between option number 2 and option number 3? I'll just point out that there may be some opportunities coming after having discussions with state resource, departments, agencies, state agencies, and also grant funders that may be coming on a federal and state level to promote outdoor recreation and kind of couple that with fire safe mitigation, particularly as it applies to making trail systems conjoined with fuel breaks or control lines or other fuel reduction projects. At the same time, we are developing a more sophisticated project prioritization and process for our fuel reduction mitigation projects with our partners, and also more sophisticated in terms of the fire behavior behind it. So the ability to incentivize specific private landowners would be an advantage as we develop those processes. I can't say with any degree of confidence that those resources are actually going to come to us. I would also say that I can't say that we are going to be more competitive for them, or we are going to have more leverage to incentivize local landowners by having a process like this. But in that case, given the nascent kind of opaque condition, in regards to that, there may be an advantage to saying take no action and closing the door without, bolting it closed, locking it, so to speak. If we wanted to take that up at some point in the future, then it might be a little bit easier than if we've made an ordinance in prohibition of it. And at that point, I conclude my presentation, and I'll invite any questions.
All right, thank you. Brian, I'll bring it to the board for questions. Supervisor, whoever. Brandon?
Great, thank you. I just wanted to confirm too, so these would obviously be property rentals paying TOT and still subject to the 30-day limit. So for example, I couldn't operate a campsite having somebody there under this premise and permanently living there, right?
Yeah, that's correct, and that's actually a condition that's identified in the state version of the document. So even if you were just to say no additional conditions imposed by the county, just because of the state's formation of AB 518, those would be requirements. You're trying to avoid an unlawful mobile home park, basically, or a homeless camp. And yes, there are provisions that would prevent that.
Okay, and what was the maximum density again for how many of these could be out there on a property?
So the state version says 1 parcel per 2 acres. We, in our initial conversations, said maybe we want to be more conservative and say 1 parcel per 5 acres. However, that, those are, open to more discussion. We haven't really brought the specific intent of the framework, but we did also indicate that those could be clustered. So even, if you have a 20-acre parcel, you could have, up to 5 of those acres have an eligible site, but cluster them all together so they're not overly dispersed and allow for other primary land uses like agriculture.
Okay. Then I don't have any more questions.
Okay. Supervisor Campbell?
And thank you very much for the presentation, and you've also come to our Fire Safety Advisory Committee, and we had a pretty spirited discussion about it there as well. What I'd like to clarify, so I'll lay out the scenario and you figure out the best way to answer it. What guardrail, of the options you presented, what guardrails are in place in each of them if, for example, a person owns a vacant parcel in a subdivision like Crystal Falls, okay, and they want to set up a campground there. I feel comfortable sharing my opinion with you. I think that is too dense of a community to support something like that. I wouldn't support any kind of regulations that would allow that. But if we're talking further afield where it's not in a subdivision and not going to impact neighbors, sure. But what protections are there to prevent that type of scenario happening where somebody buys a vacant parcel in a otherwise developed subdivision and then starts wanting to put in a hip camp or a campground?
Yeah, that was one of the reasons we recommended increasing the parcel size from 2 acres to 5 acres, is to make sure that we were a little bit further from urban centers. We also had speculated that we would have some restrictions based upon land use designation. Even in the state version, there's no urban center, that are eligible for consideration. But I think the one thing that we probably would do that for the Crystal Falls example is excluded areas with distributed water. So you're looking at areas that are further from community, which would draw down on the total number of applicants that would be eligible through the expedited process. And also, because fire risk is largely affiliated with people, anthropogenic fire origins, that, decreasing, adding the restriction of not allowing that in distributed water locations or within special districts would decrease the risk of fire as well. So there would kind of be a nexus to that.
the way we would enact those changes would be to go with option one.
Yes, it would be to continue to develop that, and we can work with staff. And I believe we've made a pretty robust process by which, that is relatively restrictive compared to other jurisdictions. And if we want that to be even more aggressive, we could increase the parcel size. We could decrease the eligible parcels by land use. We could decrease beyond just distributed water areas. Distributed wastewater areas, for instance, also, so I'm not sure if that answers your question or not.
Well, so you gave us options that include just going with the basic state level regulation that kind of kicks it over to the state. That allows parcel sizes that are 2 acres, right, that are smaller, that could, where those scenarios where you could have campgrounds that are close to a subdivision would be more likely to occur under the state regulation. And so that's why I'm trying to understand that. It seems like if we wanted to put more guardrails on this, we would want to go with option one where we develop our own ordinance. That's correct?
Yes, and I should say that from our staff and stakeholders, there was not support for an ordinance that would just say, accept all of the conditions of AB 518 without further guardrails. So that did not have community support. So the framework that we kind of are in process for would significantly increase the restrictions to make sure, they weren't in urban areas.
I think I might be able to help answer this question. Currently, low-impact camping is not allowed in Tuolumne County. So this bill allows the county the option of allowing it consistent with the state regulations. But the current status quo in Tuolumne County is there's no such thing as allowed low-impact camping. There are certain zones that allow camping, but that would be regulated under HCD. This just gives the county an optional carve-out if it wants to allow low-impact camping.
Supervisor Kirk?
Yeah, I wrote down some questions regarding like dry camping and water and whatnot, but I think what I'm hearing today is what option do we want to move forward? You'll work on an ordinance, and then that'll come back, and then we can maybe get into maybe some of the finer details as a board. Is that correct?
If you want that to be considered for Tuolumne County, if that's your preference, yes, the option one would be to direct staff to continue to develop a draft ordinance, which would again be brought before you for approval. The other option would be, no, we don't want that in our county, and we don't want that even in specific.
So let me help. So I want to move forward with it, but at some point I want to have a little bit of say, maybe in some of the structure of some of the points. But it sounds like I should wait until it comes back as an ordinance.
Yeah, there's certain triggers that we would ask for board direction on, even if we brought a complete ordinance, but just clarification.
So maybe like a pre-ordinance conversation before the board? Like, this is the framework, we're almost there, we're about to create our ordinance, and then we can have some input? Or I'm not worried about it. My stance is move forward. I know where we started. I'm usually against state regulations, like going above it. But I know we had a lot of stakeholders that had a lot of things I wanted to say, and so I'm glad that we're here. I want to move forward with it. I guess at some point, I'll bring up some of my suggestions or thoughts, but I'll wait till a future board meeting for that, not today.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think this board has to decide, we're at a fork in the road. The question is, do we get into AB 518 or do we not get into 518?
Right.
We still have to address the current HIP camps that are operating within our county, right? We've just stated that there was going to be, that we do not allow it, and yet we know it exists. So either way, if we choose not to move forward with AB 518, then we have to address those as well. But that will be an enforcement issue through CDD. So I think what the board really should focus on today is, do we or do we not want to move forward with providing direction to go into 518, and then to Supervisor Kirk, your point, I think that's when we would have that discussion of, and then we could probably just use the Fire Safe Council kind of as the driver of that, since it's kind of.
Or it sounded like CDD actually.
Are we doing comments?
Was that?
Are we doing comments?
Yep, well, you'll get public comments in a second. That's what my question is.
Board comments.
Hold on. My question was going to be, are you at a point here today where you're saying we need to decide whether we want to move forward with 518 or not move forward?
So we were asked to come back and just clarify, is this something that we have support for in concept at all? And in which case, it would make sense for staff to continue to develop this. If there's no support, there's really no point in having, yeah.
All right. That's all I had. Mike?
That's pretty straightforward. We've talked about this, so hear what the public has to say, and let's vote.
Okay. Did you have a comment or a question?
I have comments.
All right. So we'll go ahead and open it up to public comment. So anybody that wishes to come before the board and speak about this item, you have 3 minutes. Clock is in the corner there. You'll hear the little beep at 1 minute.
All right. My name is Karen. I'm a property owner in Twain Hart, and this definitely directly impacts me. I have been in conversation with Hip Camp over many years, following this issue as best I can. And I know this has been tabled a couple times in front of the board, so I'm glad it's being reviewed today. So I do think you should move forward with seeing how you can adopt this ordinance. I do agree that there should be more requirements for Tuolumne County. 2 acres doesn't make sense, 5 acres does. I can see that a lot of the requirements that I thought were maybe in this slide, but the standard requirements are not quite, yeah, they're a little shaky. We need more. I'm going to speak to a few requirements that were listed that I think need a little bit more review. For one, I really think that for fire, it's going to be like the main thing that anyone is going to come up here and scream at the board or the community about that risk. So I have currently short-term rentals with hospitality, and we do not allow any campfires during the summer. So as soon as burn permits are lifted and they say no burning, we do not have campfires, and I think that that should be part of this ordinance. The other thing is waste management. I missed the comments by waste management earlier today, but there were some more stricter requirements regarding like wildlife proof canisters and dumpsters. I've been on a wait list with waste management for 4 years for a bear-proof dumpster. I am picking up trash outside. Anyways, I won't go into that, but we don't have the resources quite locally to meet those requirements, so I think that there needs to be some specificity around that. I also understand that there are many hip camps operating in this community currently right now, and many of those include structures like huts, kind of low impact. I think they truly are low impact structures that would be like glamping. So it's very interesting to be speaking after, a huge development project that just is getting approved. Whereas I think this will really allow a lot of locals to offer their property to visitors. On-site management that would be there 24/7 is super important. But the people that are signing up for this are signing up to share their land. This isn't just like, a moneymaker for them. You don't actually make a lot of money from low-impact camping, but I still think it would be something for TOT, it would be a benefit for the county. But the people who are signing up for this care about their community, they care about their property, and they want to share that. And so opening up those doors to having a community, allowing people here to do the things that are usually just reserved for developers would be really helpful, and I think would build some trust here. So I wish I could say more, but that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
Tom, Christopher, we have property, our family has property in Groveland. And if all you have to do is sit in Groveland and watch the cars go by and all the money going into Mariposa County, going into Yosemite, going in and not staying in the community. I think you guys, we have a beautiful 18-acre parcel that I'd love to share, like the lady said, share with others. And bring money in, be responsible, have proper rules. We've been in contact with Hip Camp, and they have specific rules. I understand fire is a big problem. No, just like the lady said, we have no fires on our property. We've done nothing like that. We want to open it up to people that come, just families and things like that, to come and enjoy the beauty. You have a beautiful thing, Yosemite. We need to share that with everyone. If we can possibly do that, it would be wonderful. I would like to see you guys pass it if you could. Pass the low impact camping. If you go into Hip Camp, and there's other camping sites that have rules that are set up that you guys can actually see what they specifically have, and you can take some of that and use it for yourself. And like I said, the money will come into the community instead of spending it someplace else. I know it's not all about money, like Lady said too, that we're not in it to try to make a lot of money, because all we're catering to is family. So this is not a $300 hotel room. This is a $50 or $60 a night thing, and you guys get your TOT, like you said, and then they spend the money in the community. So I mean, it's benefit to everybody. But the regulation that you guys should have, there should be people, someone, you have code enforcement, should be able to come out and see the property, maybe once a year or maybe once every 6 months, to come out and see if everything's going and how the property actually is. And have a variance on some of the property. Ours is really rural. We have nothing around us, no buildings, no nothing. It's just land. We've already had it cleared, and we've had masticators come in and all that, and it would be a real boon to a lot of people if you guys could do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Comments? Supervisor?
Great, thank you. There's only a few things where I'm probably with Supervisor Kirk. I know we initially had made contact with HIP Camp and Cassandra and a lot of conversations back and forth. So thanks for all the even more conversations behind the scenes that were happening with this. Personally, I'm more in favor of getting it through and adopting the baseline. I do think there are some specific ones that we can add to it, but I don't think we should re-engineer most of the provisions. I always think if there's a similar county, we can adopt most of what they have. We're able to do a little more on fire, a little more on a couple things. That will be quicker than having to rewrite the thing from scratch. There's a lot of conversations that I think we can trust are probably good ideas, and we should just adopt from our colleagues. So one area would be, I think, looking at the defensible space fire, obviously fire around different seasons. I wanted to ask, is it possible, you said 1 per 2 acres. I'm actually kind of in the other category where I would like to see if somebody owned, let's say it's an 8037 property, this isn't an RV park, they're not necessarily building any physical structures. 1 per 2 acres, they could have, 20 or so out there. I would actually like to make it a lot easier to build larger and denser campgrounds than that. Some of the ones I've been to at Fort Bragg, for example, still very, rural dirt, road stuff like that. They're probably fitting in, 8 campsites per acre. I'm not saying do 8 per acre, but 1 per 2 is actually really reduced. I think the idea of a conditional use in that tier system that allows, if we're able to under this law without tripping CEQA or anything, allow somebody to apply for a large parcel property to have a higher density, that would be good for us and actually make this not just a side hustle, but for some, a primary business that would bring folks in for the same reason. It's a ton of money. They could offer more services. It's just a different avenue. I'll add one last thing. I don't know if there's a base fee we're looking at with this. Imagine the scenario, a tourist comes up, they book one of the $500 hotel rooms, and it's really nice. And then somebody else comes up, and they pay $5 for a camping spot in the backyard. In terms of potential medical service, fire service, noise complaints, trash service, we could say it's equal. I'd actually say it's probably less likely with the hotel ones because it's a managed facility with cameras and parking, all that. I'm only concerned that if we're getting 12% TOT off of what might have been, let's say it's a $10 nightly rental, we're getting $1.20, but the services are costing more. So rather than, while the TOT model I think works great for hotels and lodging, is there a way to establish effectively a base service fee of somebody coming up where maybe a $10 fee per night is for the person who is coming up, and then the pricing is on top of that? The opposite side would be folks competing on pricing, which I think is good to an extent, but if it's between we're going to charge $8 and then they're like, well, we're going to charge $5, most people coming up here probably don't mind spending $15 for a camping spot or $20. I'm concerned that we're covering the cost of the services if we get this large influx, which is a good thing. But so in short, I think we should mostly adopt the baseline. I'm very much in favor of this. I think we should add a little bit of language to fire. I think we should add a tier 3 for higher density camping on large parcels. And I think we should explore a base service fee if we're able to adapt that per camp night that goes back to county service costs for tourism impacts that are not really covered very well in this model by TOT.
Okay. Supervisor Campbell? Was that what he said? Oh, Supervisor Kirk?
Yeah, again, I kind of agree with, I definitely agree with Jaron on the aspect of if there's larger parcels that could accommodate more density, it makes sense for scale. Regarding the baseline, like I've said, I've always been about not wanting to go above the baseline, but I also don't want to, I want to be cautious. I don't want to lose the community support and get, torpedo it if we don't address some of the main concerns. So if, I guess what I'm trying to say, Sean, is I'm waiting for the potential draft to come back so I can see if it's ridiculous or if we're just addressing the main concerns of, like fire. So I think we're saying the same thing, which is heading that right direction. A baseline fee, I don't know if that's even possible because TOT is TOT and that's what they're going to be paying. So I don't know if that's, but it, go look into it, see if it's possible, see if it can't, or if other jurisdictions do that. I'm fine with being, I'm fine with you spending a little bit of time checking that out. So I'm simply where I was earlier. Well, I've changed a little bit. If we could develop a third line, like Brandon said, for a higher density, and then I guess I'm just going to wait to see what comes back for the rules. But I definitely want to move forward with it.
That's it, right? All right, thank you. Supervisor Hong?
I think I'm definitely in support of this. I think we talk all the time about economic development, creating new revenue. Yeah, it's not going to be a ton, but every drop in the bucket helps. I'm along with also Supervisor, Brandon and Kirk, that 1 per 2 acres seems fine. I don't know how we got to 5 or who came up with that idea, but I mean, think about most of our homes don't even sit on 2 acres in this county. So 1 little campsite every 2 acres doesn't seem like we'll be grossly overdensed. But I think we could address it if there's a problem down the road. But yeah, I'd like to see us move forward, put some language together, as Anaya said, and, see if it all makes sense. But yeah, why not give some people opportunity to share their land, make a little bit of money, and keep the business in Tuolumne County? Because if you're camping, most likely you're gonna go out to eat at restaurants and everything else, because especially if we don't have fires burning, which if you're the resort, maybe you may or not. So anyways, yes, that's where I'm at.
All right. Supervisor Campbell?
Yeah, and I agree that this, so I'm a little not clear on where we're at with some of these things, because it's AB 518 is an opt-in state program, and so we can either opt in and then those are the rules, or we choose not to opt in and then these types of developments remain illegal, or we can set up our own program. And so if we want to make any changes to this, we have to do that ourselves. That's what I support, even if we do mostly follow what AB 518 is. There are some areas that I think it's, I keep using the example, I don't want to see one of these in the middle of Crystal Falls or Cedar Ridge, or those places where, there's a lot of trees around and you could see a campground going in there, but I know that a lot of people would not be happy with that. So looking for the way to put the guardrails in there. And I did want to highlight that, in years past, we've looked at developing business licenses in Tuolumne County, and it's been shot down every single time. And I think this is like a perfect example of why we need something like that. And this is off topic, I know, but it's a perfect example why we need something like that, so that there is a mechanism in place to monitor and track businesses that operate, businesses like this that operate, and if there are additional fees that are required from operating those types of businesses, there's a mechanism to do that. I just feel like we have to reinvent the wheel every single time there's some kind of new innovative type of business coming into our community. Makes things slower, makes things a little more difficult for the businesses themselves, and we're not talking about large amounts of money. So anyway, that's just a side note, but But yeah, I think we should go with option one, which is to provide you direction. I think you've heard some of it on, I agree with what everyone said about the differences that I think our county has with the state bill.
Sounds like a motion then?
Well, hold on. And Supervisor Brandon, then I'll comment.
Thank you. And just looking up the bill again, I believe the standard was 1 per acre up to a maximum of 9 per parcels is what I saw in the synopsis. Okay, so we had the one per 2. That's already, from what I'm seeing, exceeding the thing. I would recommend we're at the 1 for 1. But to Supervisor Campbell's point, and I think that makes a lot of sense, can it simply exclude R1, which feels like would really address most of the issues we're talking about in a very fair way, and that's,
Jaron, you could have a 10-acre parcel that's R1 though. So, but again, I think if, to address what Ryan's saying is, most parcels on Crystal Falls won't have 2 acres or even 1 acre of land on it. They're much smaller for the most part. So
well, and it doesn't seem like it says that there has to be like a minimum of, say, it's 1 per 2 acre. Well, it requires 2 acres of unimproved open space. That is not how at least I read it. It seemed like as long as it's 1 per 2 acre, like if I had 1.5 acres, 1 per 2 acres, does that allow me at least a minimum of 1? I just can't get to the next one. You know what I mean?
Well, I think we have the ability to set, at some point when this comes back, to set the rule like how you have to have a minimum of X amount of land.
And I think that's the backyard issue is it open space, unimproved space, or is it just,
Well, not open space, because that's a no-touch thing, so. just
Yeah.
of
AB
land.
518
camp on
allows
open
the local jurisdiction to settle
There's
those
0 and
rules.
01.
It's basically set up to allow us to do that. You can exclude zones, you can condition properties, et
that's-
cetera. So
that's-
to your Crystal Falls thing, you could say, yeah, we don't,
Under AB 518?
yeah, that's.
Because that was different than what I understood. from
No,
it.
it's tailored to allow local jurisdictions to set their regulations.
Okay, well, let's just
Essentially,
do that.
Supervisors, it sets the regulatory floor. So to fit within a low-impact camping, it has to meet those minimums. But if a jurisdiction wants to have more stringent requirements, you can do that, including excluding certain zoning districts or excluding certain areas of the county.
And could I narrow the recommendation then?
Yeah, I
Could it
guess
be-
I'm not clear on the direction he gave us
I-
then, because it's like if we accept AB 518, we can still do the things that we're talking about without doing option one, which is develop our own ordinance.
Well, can we just make that our motion? Like, we're gonna opt in 518 and to bring back a set of ordinance until this can be, implementation
Well,
will happen after we get the
that-
ordinance
The
back.
state
Just to-
requires a permit for certain campgrounds, right, of a certain size, and this is allowing us to go below that. But I think when it comes to a lot of these specific regulations that aren't density, it is local rule, which is why we adopt the state bill rules, and then we're also able to develop the details, right?
To allow for any low-impact camping under this state law, the county needs to adopt an ordinance allowing that.
Yeah.
Without adopting any sort of ordinance, there's no low-impact camping in the county. That ordinance can be more stringent than the state minimum standards if the board wants it to be, but it doesn't have to be.
And to Supervisor Holland's point, and that, would it address it if it was excluding improved R1 parcels? Just trying to think,
Well,
all
I
the
think all
issues
we're
are
doing
gonna be
here is saying,
backyards.
Yeah, we have an appetite for this, put some stuff together and bring it back, and then we hash it out.
Right.
I mean, today's not hash out day.
Right, no, and I think is their general direction, because I'll say that I agree. I don't want to necessarily see it right now in backyards, in subdivisions, where that, I think, is going to cause the most issues. So if there's a zoning solution or another solution, you're right, we'll leave it to staff, but I think that would be wise.
So I'm against this, and I know, shocked, right? But I'm against this, and I'm against it because of the ambiguity. I'm against it because we've had long discussions at the Fire Safe Council about the concerns of fire, about the concerns of enforcement. Someone said earlier, we can send somebody out to go enforce these things. Well, we keep hearing we don't have enough people to go out and enforce the things that we're trying to enforce on top of that. So with that being said, I'm still open-minded enough to say if this is something that the board as a whole wants to do, then I think we need to give direction and give them a timeline to say, hey, look, we want this kind of done. Bring the first round by December, the second round by the spring, so we can have a plan of how we want to address this going into the next camping season, if you will, right? But I seriously, the feedback that I got from my constituents, because the 120 corridor is always a corridor that it's all the people are going to Yosemite through there, so now we have more camping. And we also have a large, just as in Twain Harte and others, the Forest Service, or the forest lands where you can camp in the forest lands without permits, right? You just have to follow the rules. And I'm also a big believer of personal rights. I believe that you should be allowed to do what you wish with your property. You bought your property, you should be able to develop your property, and you should be, a good, a supporter of that. But the needs of the one sometimes do not outweigh the needs of the many. Meaning, what I don't want is, as Supervisor Campbell pointed out, somebody has a backyard fire, and to the lady who made the comment that you don't allow fires, we really appreciate that. But, all it takes is one bad actor, and now we have another major blaze. So I think if we're going to get into this, if we're going to open the door and go down this path, I think this board has to be very spot on with exactly what we expect, and how the people that this is going to impact is going to have to react as well. I think this is a big, are we going to have, I'm against the permit fee. I think that we don't require a permit fee for Airbnbs. Why would we require a permit fee for someone to have a campground that we're going to approve on their property? So I think what's that?
I believe there are some fees.
Well, there are going to be some fees, but we don't, what would, to this gentleman's position, he has 18 acres, he's going to put in, 5 campsites. Is that going to be a fee per campsite? Is that going to be a fee per lot? There's a lot of, and I know that I'm kind of in the weeds on this one a little bit. My point is still the same, is that if we're going to do this, then we want to make sure that we're not excluding or making it unfair for others who are also using their property too. So that's where I'm at. I said, as I told the young lady in the front row earlier, I start at no and I work my way to yes, right? I will go with the board here if that's how we wish to give direction. But I think we specifically need to make a motion that says we're going to do this, and this is it, how we want it framed.
Well, just to be clear, right now, this is something that is not allowed by law, right? It's technically an illegal activity. You're saying the position you'd like to be at is actually closer to where I'm at, which is I would like to see more campgrounds and more flexibility, barring maybe fire. There are a few we should step in and have a higher requirement, but generally, do what you want. 518 or whatever makes a step towards that. If we vote it down today and being opposed to it, is maintaining the strictest level of scrutiny, which says you cannot do this whatsoever. So I'd recommend wherever we are at with this, adopting 518 or adopting it and doing some amendment, unless we're opposed, that's, would be basically where we move forward with it. So.
Well, I think the language is that to give direction on what we want to do. We're not adopting 518. I think what we have to do is give them direction to come up with the verbiage, to come up with the rules and regulation that this county is going to adopt to address.
Well, we can adopt the baseline 518 and use the current local ordinances that we have for all of those other issues, correct? We're also talking that we could direct to adopt 518 in concept, but then develop more specific regulations for these, is my understanding.
Yeah,
Right.
That's how I read it, is that we can right now adopt 518
Right.
and direct staff to come back with amendments or guardrails that meet our local needs beyond.
But with that being said,
518.
To be clear, your board cannot adopt an ordinance today adopting 518. That would need to come back at a future meeting.
Fine, then give you direction to.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So if we want to create an ordinance
518,
to opt in, I'm all for that, because currently it says, as Supervisor Brandon pointed out, it's, 9 campsites, 4, with a maximum of 4 for recreational vehicles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Well, I'm saying adopting the baseline thing, and I'm not saying this is the schedule of it, but hypothetically could come back in 2 weeks if we just say, we have no additional comments, we just want the baseline, what the state adopted. That could come back and then have our first and second reading and be very, very quick. The time and the staff time is mostly going to be involved in anything we add to that we want to be additional or specific.
I think that's hypothetically true, yeah.
Hypothetically. I'm not gonna put it in
an
there,
ordinance
bring
could
it
come
back
back
in
in
2 weeks.
Practically with, staffing and other board priorities and wanting to consider the input of, the community and constituents, I don't think it's a realistic timeframe, but hypothetically, yes.
So Chair, there was a couple things I know I mentioned, that was brought up. I know some other board members had a couple thoughts as well. How would you like to do, because you mentioned you wanted a motion, I agree. I think that'll be clear direction on it. We kind of have the, do we want to do this or not? From what I've heard was either a 4-1 or a 5-0. There were a few specifics, I heard consensus on fire, I think, and defensible space, and that being a key priority. The ability to do the higher density conditionally in some areas, whether it was the 2-acre or the 5-acre. I know both Supervisor Holland and I mentioned, and then I mentioned the base service fee. Would it be okay if we kind of just went and did a poll on those things, so then we can craft the motion that represents the majority opinion?
I don't think that would be within the scope of this discussion, though.
We're giving direction on what to develop.
Right, but your point is made. I think what I'm saying is that if we give direction to move forward, then we just send them your information, and then we can discuss it when it comes back later
That's fine.
at a later time. And that way we can say, this is where we're at. We don't want to lock ourselves in, and I don't want to exclude your point, your items too. So I think that if we do that, then we should be okay.
How about I just make a motion here?
Hey, Mike, you've been waiting.
Why don't we just get on with this? I'll make a motion that we, in the near future, or the Board of Supervisors in the next few weeks will email what we'd like to see in this local ordinance that will mimic 518. We could probably use a lot of the language out of 518 if you want, and bring it back to us in a timely manner when you guys feel like you got time to squeeze this in and get it done.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Passes 5-0.
Great.
All right, I think that is it. It is 12:33. We will conclude our meeting. Thank you, everyone, for sticking it out.